that they were working on the annual report that would give me access to all the documents. And I made copies of them. For about 2 months, I watched the accounts accumulate money. And then a month they zero out. To launder the government. There were $100 million a month in cocaine coming in and out of the office. They had a problem. They were doing so much money in cocaine, $100 million. You create a problem. You in a state like Arkansas, how do you clean $100 million a month? Add up until 1989, never banked in Arkansas. What they would do is they would ship money down to Florida, a bank in Florida, which later would be connected to PCCI. They would ship money to a bank in Atlanta, Georgia, which, by the way, was later connected to PCCI. They'd ship to Citicorp in New York, which would send the money overseas. There's an interesting bank in Chicago. That bank, by the way, is partially owned by Dan Rothschild. Dan Lassiter would get the bonds. He would become the broker for the bonds. He would transfer money back to Africa. He never sold the bonds. The money then would leave Africa, go into one of the various banks for the specific bond loan, and they would zero it out. When they zeroed it out, they would give it back to Lester handling fees.
During the last investigation, we had numerous witnesses for the federal grand jury, had extensive testimony of people that was connected with Laster and drug use and everything else. His cocaine used to become used as a tool for sexual favors and also for business deals that influence people. And that's when Mr. Laster became quite flamboyant with his cocaine use, and then ultimately led to his arrest and conviction.
Dan Laster, who was best friend of Bill Clinton, who went to jail with Roger Clinton for cocaine. And by the way, let me explain something. He didn't sell cocaine. They were giving him huge piles of cocaine in his office. Ashtray upon ashtray full at the parties, and they would give it to young girls. That's sick. I mean, they were giving a highly addictive drug to young girls.
One particular one that comes to mind is a 14-year-old cheerleader out of North Little Rock. She was a virgin, and ultimately he ended up sent her to a physician of his. The physician put her on birth control pills. He used cocaine in order to ultimately she lost her virginity, and she got addicted to cocaine. And the last I heard of her, when we had her subpoenaed back to the federal grand jury, she was a hooker in Lake Tahoe.
Dan Laster contracted to launder the money. Now, in addition to his contract to launder the money and the system that he and Bill Clinton had set up to do it, probably what he did is he took advantage of some of the cocaine. That's why he could give it away. Shoot, you had $100 million a month in cocaine. They wouldn't if you took the bucket full a day.
After Laster was indicted, I started to receive quite a bit of harassment from my own department, the Arkansas State Police. And I knew the reason behind it because the affiliation with the state police and the governor's office with Dan Laster and his business associates.
Mr. Lassiter's cocaine involvement at times was very heavy, then at times he was very cool, calm, mediocre. He was very careful, as all of them have been for quite some time.
Something's going on with my
Once he was convicted, he went to a minimum security prison, a holiday hotel, we call them. He spent, I think it was 6 to 8 months, and he got out. Unbeknownst to anybody, Bill Clinton, the day after he got out, granted him a full and complete pardon. So if you think he's tough on crime, think about a man that pardons a man that gives cocaine to kids.
Fear of violence is robbing our children of their future.
We must take away that fear and give them hope. We must give Alicia and all our children back their childhood. Working together, we can.
Do something now. Call 1-800-WE-PREVENT.
Your president, President of the United States, not only was a part of the system that was laundering millions of cocaine dollars, your president signed off on it. You can't deny that he did. You see, because there's one little catch. Every loan ADFA made, Bill Clinton himself had to sign off on it. More than Bill Clinton. You better identify the people in the loop of the drug running. You better identify the people in the loop for money laundering. And what you'll find there is those people go straight to Washington. Act 1062, when you look at it, it says that ADFA was developed and created to provide low-interest bond loans for churches, schools, colleges. So now look what happened to our legislature. They voted on a bill creating ADFA, thinking that they were getting money to colleges and schools to buy books and so forth. What better way to run thousands of, tens of millions of dollars, launder it, clean it up, and use the cover of a state agency to do it. The first loan made at ADFA was made to Parkometer, a company called Parkometer. Seth Ward was the owner. As I started looking, I found out that the Secretary Treasurer was Webb Hubbell. Then I found out Webb Hubbell
That's
was
Chelsea's.
Seth Ward's son-in-law. Guess who drafted legislation creating Act 1062, which created the Arkansas Development Finance Authority? Webb Hubbell. Guess who introduced the legislation to our legislators and got it passed through our House? Webb Hubbell. Guess who got the first loan? Webb Hubbell. Imagine this. Guess who did the audit and the evaluation of the application? Rose Law Firm. You guessed it. Who signed it? Webb Hubbell, Hillary Clinton. You see, that's against the law in Arkansas. You can't investigate yourself when the good faith and credit of the state of Arkansas is involved in a bond issue. He broke the law. Good Lord willing, we don't rise and be serving some time in the pen for that one.
Ironically, Webb Hubbell, a senior partner at the Rose Law Firm, was chairman of the Conflicts of Interest Committee at Rose. In 1988, he successfully advanced the Ethics in Government Act, which required Arkansas legislators to report governmental conflicts of interest. Incredibly, this law specifically exempted Governor Bill Clinton, his appointees, and his relatives. Clinton's appointment of Hubbell to the U.S. Justice Department exemplified the administration's total disregard for legal ethics. Hubbell's hasty resignation in March 1994 for overbilling of Rose clients was merely a ploy to remove Hubbell from the limelight before extensive criminal charges could be brought against him.
Let me tell you about Parkometer. The first loan was $2.85 million. Never was a penny of that paid back. As the newspaper people started inquiring about the Parkometer loans, what they found was that Parkometer was actually building retrofit nose cone compartments that were being shipped to MENA. We find out that the nose cones were actually being used to smuggle dope back into the country. And what is scary, what's so scary, it's the same cast of characters. Webb Hubbell, the Rose Law Firm, are guilty, I say to you, of conspiring to defraud the state of Arkansas, the federal government, and conspired to solicit the sales and the laundering of money for illegal drugs. This is your president. This is his circle of power. These are the people, when he got elected president, did not pass go. He took them straight to Washington with him. And by all things holy, I think he was planning to set up to do the same thing in Washington.
In 1982, cocaine trafficker Barry Seal set up one of the largest drug smuggling operations in the United States in Mena, Arkansas, under the approving eye of Governor Bill Clinton.
Barry Seal had a bunch of planes and supposedly had pilots. Barry Seal was
was a drug smuggler. And he tried to set it up in his home state of Louisiana. But they wouldn't let him. He had to come to a state that
Good
had
job.
a sleazy
Now repeat everything
government
one more time.
hooked
This sword?
on cocaine.
Will it really
And
change
everybody
my
knew it.
life?
Yeah, Bill Clinton was hooked on cocaine.
I lived in Little Rock, Arkansas, okay? And I worked at a club called the Bistros. And I met Roger Clinton there, Governor Bill Clinton. So a couple of the state troopers that went with him wherever he went, Roger Clinton had came up to me and he had asked me, could I give him some coke, you know, and asked for my one-hitter, which a one-hitter is a very small silver device, okay, that you stick up into your nose and you just squeeze it and a snort of cocaine will go up in there. And I watched Roger hand what I had given him to Governor Clinton, and he just kind of turned around and walked off, and that's one specific.
Dr. Suen, S-U-E-N, the doctor at the medical center here in Little Rock, is taking care of Bill Clinton for his sinus problems, which may indeed be drug-related to cocaine use, as they destroy the sinus passages. Governor Bill Clinton was taken into the hospital.
Billy, you cokehead.
It was the medical center on at least one or two occasions for cocaine abuse and overdosage, in which he actually had to be cared for at the hospital.
It led to toga parties. And if you're not sure on what a toga party is, I've had to clarify this in the past. Toga party is where you wrap yourself in a sheet most of the time. The people at the toga parties were Governor Clinton, now President Clinton, Attorney General Steve Clark. Okay, he was there a few times. Members of the Arkansas State Police, you know, along with Roger and, you know, other people. They began to dance around, do the cocaine in one room, have sex in another room.
Good job.
Because in the coachman's
Now
room,
repeat everything
the rooms
one
were
more time.
adjoining, you know. And to be quite truthful, you end up with somebody in particular, and you 9 times out of 10 end up having sex.
You don't have to be a redhead
And
to become a Valkyrie.
there was cocaine there. I know. I'm the one that made sure it was there.
I talked to the manager, the assistant manager for the apartment complex where Roger Clinton used to live. They've all said Bill Clinton did drugs.
A Valkyrie's sophistication is based on virtue and
I
self-restraint.
talked to a lot of other people who have all, just like the people at the apartment complex, said, hey, John, get us to a congressional hearing. Yes, we'll sign sworn affidavits. These people want to be sure when they come forward that something's done about it because they fear for their life, but they really want the truth to get out.
I was there, coming there with Roger one night, and back in the back part of the mansion there's kind of like a living quarters type thing, and we would all get together out there and do cocaine, you know, and no, Miss Clinton wasn't there at the time.
In 1983, I was made aware that Sheriff Hadaway and one of his auxiliary deputies, Terry Capehart, were investigating a smuggling operation going on at the Vienna airport. They had an inside source of information.
Mr. Seal, it was our understanding, was the one who had brought the operation into the Mena airport, and that had initiated
Wait,
the
I'm
beginning of the
raising an
money
important
laundering
part.
and the illegal activity.
He said 1983 was his most profitable cocaine smuggling period ever. Said that the airplanes that he had placed at the Mena airport, there were 4 of them, a couple of Senecas and a couple of Panthers, and 1 or 2 stragglers, here and there, different airplanes. He said they were purchased solely for the purpose of cocaine smuggling.
There was, in my opinion, more than enough evidence to prosecute a number of people for crimes regarding the Barry Seal case at Mena.
I snuck around, crawled through the bushes, thinking that I'd really have to hide to see them unloading the dope. Didn't have to. You could walk right up to the airport and they'd unloaded it right in front of you. They would unload the bed off.
There's more to you than meets the eye. Follow the
certain degree of
indicator
money laundering
at
has
your
taken
own
place
pace.
among
you
these
expected
people
a war,
associated with Barry Seal.
What had not been done was
No
to connect the
way.
dotted lines to add. Because once you
What?
connected the dotted
Are you
lines to
serious?
Addison, you had actually connected the dotted line to Clinton.
In addition to the operations at Mina, small clearings in other parts of the state were used as drop points for money and cocaine.
They had special cargo doors installed in the side without FAA permission, so that these doors could be opened in flight. They'd pull in, slide back, and the cocaine could be dropped out of the side in flight.
When you have a public which is aware of an ongoing criminal enterprise, when you have an international cocaine smuggler who is high profile, and a lot of people know that they are operating in a small area. A lot of people knew about the money laundering. It was common gossip on the street because it was so blatant. And they see investigations ongoing for several years. And they keep watching for indictments. They know grand juries are convening. They know that witnesses are supposed to be providing evidence to a grand jury, yet year after year after year, no indictments are returned. People lose confidence in the system.
Books.
Clinton had
There's joy in
integrated
the
a number of
recital of
corrupt
knowledge.
cops, judges, and politicians into high-level positions to ensure the continued success of the drug smuggling, money laundering operations. All was going well until a fateful night in the fall of 1987.
On August 22nd, 1987,
Mind your
Kevin spent the night
manners.
with his friend Don Henry.
Is it
They
that
left Don's home around 12:30 or 1:45 on the 23rd of August in early morning hours, and the next thing we knew, they had been run over by a train. There seems to be a small airstrip in the area. There have been sightings and reports of small airplanes flying very low with lights off in the area. I believe they saw something they shouldn't have seen. 3 weeks later, their deaths were ruled accidental by the state medical examiner, Fammy Malik, and we disagreed with that ruling because we thought the evidence pointed to homicide. At that point, we had a lot of questions and no answers, and the facts didn't add up to what he was telling us, so we decided to get a second opinion and met with resistance from all fronts, both with our local law enforcement, with state crime lab, with everybody that we turned to. We obtained court orders, requesting samples of everything that the
I'd
crime
rather be
lab
married
had
to
for a second
books.
opinion. And Fammy Malik resisted court orders. He refused to obey them.
Ultimately, it was proven that Don Henry had been stabbed in the back and Kevin Ives' skull had been crushed prior to the placement of their bodies on the railroad tracks. However, Malik stood by his ruling that the boys had simply fallen asleep on the tracks.
Chancellor Serres
Malik
is
had
the
been kept
most
in office at
powerful
the
woman
insistence
in
of
the
Governor
country.
Clinton for a number of years, despite vigorous public outcry to have him removed. As long as Malik's rulings pleased the governor's office or state police, they were left to stand, no matter how implausible. Malik's obvious lack of medical knowledge reached a pinnacle when he ruled that James Milam, who had been decapitated, had died of natural causes. Yet Clinton, who had the power to remove Malik from office, insisted he stay.
There were allegations of tampering with evidence in murder cases. There were allegations of perjury in different cases. It didn't seem to matter what Malik did. Clinton protected him. He made excuses such as he's overworked, he's just stressed out, he's underpaid. They gave him a $14,000 raise, which was an insult to my family as well as a lot of others in the state who to this day are struggling with asinine rulings and the deaths of children and other loved ones. I was outraged that protecting a political crony of Clinton's was more important than the fact that 2 young boys had been murdered.
Dan Harmon was just a local attorney in the town of Benton, Arkansas. And after Don Henry and Kevin Ives was killed and the body's placed on the tracks. And
I'm going to
about
read
drained.
one book a day.
Didn't someone borrow that
He approached
already?
Linda Ives and the Henry family about trying to help him. He's a manipulator. He gives a great closing argument in court. He's been trained for years to play the game. He knows how to do it. He's very good at it. Mr. Harmon can win your confidence and make you think he's the greatest guy in the world. He did that to Linda Ives.
I need to
He helped
study.
lead them down a path that absolutely led to nowhere on this case. I got involved in the case, and immediately Harmon tried to discredit me without even knowing me. Couldn't figure it out. I run across a young lady named Charlene Wilson,
Wait, I'm reading an important part.
who told a horror story that I didn't really believe at the time. So I started searching for evidence to substantiate just part of what she had said. Harmon went ballistic. Called, he threatened me, threatened Sheriff Pridgeon, threatened Captain Gene Donham, the chief deputy. All because I talked to this one woman.
The people at the track that night, to my knowledge, were Dan Harmon, Keith McCaskill, Larry Rochelle. I do know that the boys were watching the drop site, okay? And they got curious as to what was being dropped there.
The fact is, we know who killed these kids. The whole
Nobles
reason
even
this
think
case
differently.
has been slowed down, stopped, we're everywhere at. They can't do anything with it as long as Clinton's in office. Because the tracks were right back to Bill Clinton being involved in the cover-up. He took care of everybody that ever covered anything up in this case. Everybody got promoted.
A number of people approached the police with information about Don and Kevin's murders and consequently were murdered themselves.
Shortly before Keith McCaskill was murdered, he knew that he was fixing to be murdered. He told his family goodbye, he told his friends goodbye. The night of elections in 1988, he took 2 pennies out of his pocket and threw them on the bar there at the Wagon Wheel and said, "If Jim Steed loses this election, my life isn't worth 2 cents." And he was murdered that night. Jeff Rhodes was a young man from Benton who was murdered in 1989. Shortly before his death, he made a phone call to his dad in Texas and told him he needed to get out of Benton, Arkansas, that he felt he knew too much about the boys in the railroad tracks and the death of Keith McCaskill. A couple of weeks later, Jeff was found dead. He'd been shot in the head. They'd attempted to cut off his head and hands and feet, set him on fire in a dump.
A total of 6 people with information about the boys' murders were eventually murdered as well.
Gene Duffy was the head of the 7th Judicial District Drug Task Force. She was leading a team of narcotics investigators into a drug trail in Saline County that led her right straight to Dan Harmon. This information she shared with the 1990 Federal OCDETF team that was investigating and targeting corruption and drugs in Saline County and Central Arkansas. From her involvement in
Every Valkyrie is my daughter, and
She
we
was
are all
literally
the sons and daughters of Elion.
threatened,
I do not discriminate
forced to
by
leave the
family
state of
in the
Arkansas and
treatment
go into
of my
hiding.
daughter.
I had no idea just how dangerous certain elected officials thought me to be until a brutal media
Books.
campaign was
There's
launched
joy in the
against me.
recital of knowledge.
For months, there were daily allegations of everything from misspending funds to ordering illegal arrests. Every attempt was made to keep me from running the drug task force. We were even shut down completely for several weeks during a bogus state police investigation. In spite of crippling disruptions, the task force was making significant discoveries about drug trafficking in Central Arkansas, some of which led to the very people who were conducting the massive media crusade against me. We discovered that drug trafficking in Arkansas was linked to government officials in frightening proportions. A great number of people came to me with testimony about astonishing criminal activity of very high-level public officials. Many were willing to testify before the federal grand jury.
Robert Govar and Chuck Banks were the U.S. attorneys for the District of Arkansas at that time. I was subpoenaed to testify on behalf of the drug trafficking and the cartel, more or less is what it was, that had to do with Dan Harmon and what I call company, because there are there's a whole bunch of them that are involved. I was asked quite in depth about the drug trafficking that went on with Dan Harmon, Mr. Clinton, Roger Clinton.
Although there was an abundance of evidence and word kept reaching me from members of the grand jury that they were ready to indict, no indictments came. Mr. Govar also insisted that he was ready to prosecute at least 2 key figures, but the holdup was his boss, U.S. Attorney Chuck Banks, who repeatedly delayed requests for indictments.
Harmon had paid a visit to Chuck Banks, the U.S. District Attorney, who was in charge of that district. It's recorded, he signed in. He was there approximately 30 minutes, and up until that time, everything appeared to be running fine with the grand jury.
Adventures? I'd rather read books if I have that much time.
Banks removed Govar from the case, and I was fired from the task force. From this point, the ordeal turned really ugly. In January 1991, one of the key targets of Govar's investigation, Dan Harmon, took office as the 7th Judicial District Prosecutor. Harmon immediately called a state grand jury to investigate the allegations against me. To avoid being jailed in Hot Spring County, which would have put me in serious danger, I left the state. In the meantime, Banks, who had taken over the federal investigation, attempted to give the appearance of carrying the investigation forward while systematically destroying it. He harassed witnesses, suppressed evidence, and finally announced in February of 1991 that the investigation had disclosed no credible witnesses or evidence against any public official.
I received a phone call, and they told me that I had made a very big mistake. And I was assured by the U.S. Attorney's Office that my name, that my testimony, that my statements, that the people that were on that witness list would never, ever be revealed. Well, you know, someone in the U.S. Attorney's Office had given Mr. Harmon a list of the affected witnesses, you know. Some of them witnesses over a period of time have came up dead and or missing or have never been heard of again. That don't give you a very good feeling. I'm scared of these people. I'm very scared of them.
Yes,
You should have made a reservation for it in advance.
The very guy that she says turned her on to drugs now has her arrested.
Oh, I really need
Dan
this
Harmon,
book today.
he walked to me, handed me what was supposed to be a search warrant, and he
When
said,
will I finish this
"Dick,"
super thick one?
excuse me for saying that.
Didn't someone borrow
I
that
told you,
already?
If you
I
ever,
need to study.
brought my name up or brought anything up about
This book?
past
Take
things that
another
we
look.
said,
This?
that I'd take you
No.
down. He said, you're going to prison. I'm going to put you in prison. He did. I'm here.
I mean, I've watched second, third offense people walk around with probation on top of probation on top of probation. Not this lady. First time she's been arrested for drugs. They allege that they found in her home. She gets 30 years. Sure, everybody ought to be able to see through this. This is a man that told Linda Iles for years, we're going to get to the bottom of your son's death. Yet when I start making progress, it looks like the people I talk to start spending time in the penitentiary. Linda says it's business as usual in Saline County. Justices
In the English language that can describe how
usual in Arkansas.
there aren't any words that you feel as a parent or as a
Who the hell is she, anyway?
are capable of doing You know, I think we were just kind of naive, common, ordinary people. Got up and went to work every day and came home and went to bed and assumed that everybody else did the same thing and tried to do what was right. And I think Kevin's death has been the rudest awakening that anybody could ever have to see what really goes on.
I can provide information that has tentacles to Governor Clinton's administration. It is apparent to me that a congressional investigation is the last hope, not only for the people of Arkansas, implications of illegal activity, who has left in his wake and now vulnerable to the powers of oppression, but for the people of our nation, who are now vulnerable to the powers of a president who has left in his wake implications of illegal activities and serious improprieties.
Meanwhile, Welch and Duncan's investigation into the operation at Mena was about to derail.
We've been so busy investigating, just concentrating, focusing, that it took a while to register that nothing was going to happen.
We could not understand what was happening. Neither Mr. Welch nor I were ever subpoenaed to testify before the grand jury and present massive amounts of evidence of wrongdoing by associates of Barry Seal. No indictments were ever returned against any of the individuals, and I can tell you there was extensive evidence.
There definitely was some suppression of evidence and definitely a cover-up of an investigation, and somebody should be held accountable as to why that happened.
Not one major cocaine bust was ever made in Arkansas out of Mena, Arkansas. Now imagine that, 10 years nearly in its running. Never one truckload ever got caught.
During the 1992 Attorney General's race in Arkansas, a member of Clinton's staff had approached Winston Bryant and had asked him to stay away from the Mena affair or the Mena matter.
I've done quite a bit of investigation into Mena. Barry's...
After Winston...
quite frankly, it is a federal problem.
He took office. Bill told me that he was no longer allowed to discuss the Mena Airport investigation from the Attorney General's office.
The Attorney General's office is not like most Attorney General's offices across the country. We do not have the authority to convene a grand jury and initiate criminal prosecution.
A lot of people have said that the Mena operation stopped in 1986 when Barry Seal was gunned down. It's not true. Covert operations are still going on in Mena, Arkansas today. Now, if you stop and think, back when Bill Clinton was governor, he was asked about Mena. He said, well, that's a federal problem. I'm not going to get involved in it. He's not the governor of Arkansas anymore. He's the president of the United States. We still have operations at Mena, Arkansas. This is his golden opportunity to take care of it. My question is, why doesn't he?
I've always thought it was a wonderful thing to be able to serve your country as a federal law enforcement agent. And for 15 years, I did not encounter anything like the corruption which I encountered after the Mena investigations began.
President Clinton's verbal commitment to a war on drugs has been negated by his actions. During his first weeks in office, Clinton revoked random drug testing for White House staff members. He eliminated 121 positions at the Office of National Drug Control. And he appointed Jocelyn Elders as U.S. Surgeon General, despite her well-known desire to legalize drugs. One of Hillary's investments, under the direction of Tyson Foods counselor James Blair, netted almost $100,000 on an initial $1,000 investment, a nearly impossible feat using legal methods.
I can't read their minds or speculate, but I had absolutely no reason to believe that I got any favorable treatment.
Coincidentally, Governor Clinton enacted a number of state regulations allowing Tyson Foods to grow into
She
the
hasn't
largest
changed
industry in
much.
Arkansas.
Don Tyson put in $700,000 all told in all of Bill Clinton's campaign. Guess what he got out of it? He got $10 million. Guess from where? The Arkansas Development Finance Authority. And he never paid a dime for it.
I had heard rumors of Don Tyson and his alleged cocaine use and distribution. And I went through the intelligence files and come up with enough that I thought was sufficient amount of evidence to launch an investigation on Mr. Tyson simply out of the Arkansas State Police intelligence files has been accumulated for years.
A great deal of criminal investigation files were surfacing with Don Tyson's name mentioned in there as being involved with some drug and narcotics trafficking activities. So I interviewed some of the investigators who worked on the Tyson case. Most of them felt that Tyson should have been indicted, but the investigations were always sabotaged, oftentimes from within. One particular undercover narc agent told me that another criminal investigator in that department named Doug Fogley was furnishing Don Tyson with photographs of the undercover narcotics agents that were working on his case.
Donald Smaltz was actually hired to look into the allegations that Tyson had given bribes to different people, specifically to the Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Espy. And what came out of that investigation was very remarkable. Drug abuse, drug distribution, money laundering, even murder for hire. Now, Smaltz collected all this stuff. He compiled it, he put it in proper order. And he approached Janet Reno and said, look, you know, I need to broaden my investigation. I'm finding more here than just simple payoffs. What do you think happened? Well, by now, most of you already know. He was turned down. Just exactly what we expected to happen happened. I mean, Tyson already hired lobbyists, attorneys, who all approached Congress trying to get everybody to stop Smaltz. Why is it in this country today that if you got a little money, you walk away? Why is it you can create the pressure to stop investigations? And I promise you, Janet Reno has stopped this one. You look at these and you wonder, how could this happen? You know, how does someone elude prosecution with reams of investigative reports? How does it get stopped? Some say it's Bill Clinton.
Don Tyson was in the middle of the cocaine just like Bill Clinton, just like Dan Lasker, just like Roger Clinton, and all the others. So you see, all of this incest and all of this drug running, all of the trafficking of drugs, sending them all over the nation, came out of Little Mena, Arkansas, right under the nose of little Governor Billy Clinton. I went to Bill, and I said, Bill, you've got 2 weeks to tell the truth, or I'm going to tell it. You're breaking the law, and I can't be a part of it. You made a mistake. I'm not one of your buds. At least I'm not that big of a.
When Larry Nichols made his disclosures, made them public, the Clinton spin doctors treated him unmercifully. It shocked those of us who had been kept in the dark through the years in Arkansas politics. The Arkansas news media had done little, if anything, to uncover anything derogatory about Bill Clinton. And for these disclosures to come out of the blue was so shocking that the spin doctors attacked the messenger rather than tried to answer the charges that Nichols had made. And they did such an efficient job that it caused me and others to look with less than favor on Larry Nichols as an individual, because all we knew about him was what they were telling and the press was printing.
One of the neatest things about Bill Clinton is how he handles the media. You see, Bill Clinton's an attorney. And when a witness comes out against his client, what's the first thing an attorney does? He tries to discredit that witness. They accuse me of everything under the sun, day in, day out. Every week, there was some new scandal in the paper that I was involved in. 6, 8 weeks later, they print a retraction. Wasn't me. But to this day, people in Arkansas think that I'm some evil person.
As a result of that, the boy had to pay a high penalty in his credibility. He had to pay a high penalty in his acceptability. And then when the new evidence came out that supported everything that Larry Nichols had said, he finds himself, I think, probably in the position of knowing that he had been exonerated, but he has not been exonerated in the minds of the people generally, in my view. And he finds himself probably in the position of wondering where he goes now to get his good name back.
A lot of people wonder how Bill Clinton could control a state the size of Arkansas with the absolute authority that he did. It's not hard. You see, after 12 years, after kissing the people that have the money, Bill Clinton controlled the legal system. He controlled the judges. He controlled the attorneys. He controlled the banks.
It's just a small state, a one-party state. What tends to happen in small states like that, I think, is the longer the person remains governor, that I think the greater the abuses are. And I think the abuses were very, very widespread under Bill Clinton.
One thing that's very difficult for people to understand, Bill Clinton doesn't care about money. He cares about power. All he needed ADFA to do was to channel money to the big players financially. I got tickled when the reporters during the campaign came here. They were looking, trying to find out where Bill Clinton profited. He didn't. He profited by putting money into his friends' pockets.
The way they were doing these bond issues and just the whole political atmosphere, quite frankly, was a scandal. But that's the way things had historically been done in Arkansas.
But imagine this. Imagine the power this man has in Washington, D.C. Imagine what he can do to this nation if he gets that circle of power going there, as he did here. Nothing I can do, nothing you can do can stop it. Because he'll have the absolute power, and believe me, he will use it to have you investigated, to have you arrested, to have your company audited. Now, that's what'll happen when his circle of power is complete. When I worked at ADFA, it was not uncommon for Bob Nash to call me up and say, hey, Nichols, the governor needs about $5 grand transferred to his travel account so he can go see his ladies. And we would at ADFA transfer $5,000 to $10,000 for him to go see his girlfriends in either L.A. or New York. He'd use so much travel money to go see women out of his regular travel budget, he would even have to borrow money from ADFA. Not to mention the fact that ADFA's budget was not quite as scrutinized as the governor's budget. But he literally used money, ADFA money, the people of Arkansas, taxpayers' money, to conduct liaisons.
During the 1990 Arkansas gubernatorial race, Larry Nichols, in a last-ditch attempt to alert the public, boldly filed a lawsuit against Bill Clinton. As expected, the lawsuit was eventually quashed, sealed, and illegally dismissed by a Clinton-appointed judge. What Nichols didn't expect was a complete media blackout of the facts he presented.
Back in 1990, after all the damage they had done to me, I did something that most people wouldn't do in Arkansas. I sued Bill Clinton. Now, it's very important to note that in that lawsuit, I brought out the names of 5 women. On October the 19th, the only press conference I've ever held in my life was on the Capitol steps of Arkansas. Every news organization in Arkansas, newspaper, TV, radio, were there on the steps. I read the names of the 5 women. I read and talked about ADFA. No one had ever made such a cold, callous, statement against Bill Clinton, where he named the women. When I got through the press conference, I went through the center door, and I walked off with the camera crews with me, and I walked all the way to the end to the governor's office, and I left the press release right on the governor's secretary's desk. Not one bit of the press release made it into the local TV or the local newspapers, anywhere. It didn't show up anywhere. The reason I tell you that is because in those days, he had the circle of power complete in Arkansas.
Eventually, every allegation stemming from Nichols' 1990 lawsuit and press conference would prove valid regarding Clinton's taxpayer-financed sexual liaisons, his drug usage, and his criminal activities relating to ADFA and Whitewater. Gradually, the women who had carried on adulterous affairs with Clinton began to emerge. The first was Jennifer Flowers, who, like all those close to Clinton, was faced with a decision. Either keep quiet and receive a government job, or go public and face character assassination in the press. Betsy Wright, Clinton's former chief of staff, admitted she had been hired to conduct media smear campaigns against anyone planning to tell the truth about the governor's sexual habits. She was prepared to go after at least 26 women who had the potential of destroying Clinton's chance at the presidency.
During the 1992 presidential campaign, I was getting bludgeoned by the media because Jennifer Flowers had come out of my lawsuit. A man called me on the phone on a Monday. His name was Gary Johnson. He was an attorney. He told me that he felt bad because I was being bludgeoned, and he wanted to talk to me about handling my case. Well, I was craving an attorney, any attorney, to help me.
You know, I saw Larry out there doing battle, so to speak, on his own, and I felt like he needed some help.
I met him on a Tuesday. He was a special attorney. I didn't even know it. You see, he lived next door to Jennifer Flowers.
For security purposes, Gary Johnson had installed a video camera near the front door of his Quapaw Tower condominium.
Looking at someone in front of my door, it got a perfect shot of them in front of Jennifer Flowers' condominium. And it wasn't my intention ever to take pictures of Bill Clinton going in to see Jennifer Flowers. I could care less who Bill Clinton goes to see. But it just so happened she lived next door to me, and I mounted the camera there.
Guess what he caught on tape? Bill Clinton walking into Jennifer Flowers' apartment on numerous occasions with a key.
I actually saw him go into her condominium. It wasn't that I was standing there looking out my peephole watching Jennifer Flowers' condominium. It had nothing to do with Bill Clinton. It's just that I got the camera. I had the camera before Jennifer Flowers moved in. And when she moved in, she just happened to have some very interesting house guests.
Go back to 60 Minutes when Bill and Hillary were loving kisses. They stood up and lied, and Bill said that he'd never been to her apartment, that he'd only called her once from the kitchen and from his office. That's an absolute lie, and these tapes proved it.
The 60 Minutes interview had been designed specifically to save Clinton's campaign, not necessarily to get to the truth.
And they came to us because they were in big trouble in New Hampshire. They were about to lose right there, and they needed some first aid. They needed some bandaging. What they needed was a paramedic. So they came to us, and we did it, and that's what they wanted to do. When I told Tim Russert that I was persona non grata at the White House, he said, "Why?" I said, "The Jennifer Flowers interview." He said, "You got him the nomination." I said, "I know that." As far as I know from the conversations I've had, Bernie Nussbaum knew that, Gergen knows that, Lloyd Cutler certainly knows it because Lloyd had a hand in his coming on there that night. You know, it was strong medicine, the way I edited it. He was a very sick candidate. He needed very strong medicine. And I'm not in the business of doctoring candidates, but he got up out of a sickbed that night and walked to the nomination. And as I said to Mandy, you know, if I'd edited it your way, you know where you'd be today? You'd still be up in New Hampshire looking for the nomination. He became the candidate that night.
when the Jen Flowers story broke, that story was 100 times more creditable than the story that literally knocked Gary Hart out of the campaign.
I had been Jennifer Flowers' neighbor. I knew that Bill Clinton wasn't telling the truth about that. Bill Clinton, I think, would do just about anything to save his political hide.
He got threatening phone calls. He asked me, he said, "Will they hurt me?" I said, "Well, they hadn't hurt me." I don't know why I didn't worry more about that.
Basically, what they said was, you mind your own business. And all it did was made me mad. I never thought in a million years that anybody would follow up on it.
We filed the
Sure, he was
request for his subpoena
handsome.
on
About that
Thursday.
William fellow we saw before.
Saturday morning, we found Gary Johnson beaten and left for dead. And without getting into gory details, both elbows were dislocated, his collarbones were broken, his spleen and his bladder were ruptured with holes the size of $50 in them. His nose, his sinus cavities were all crushed. He had been beaten by Clinton's people.
Were they very large?
Yes. Yes, they were.
What? Are you
Did they
serious?
say, "Where's the tape"?
Yes, they asked me
Seriously, I was
the
surprised too.
tape.
And what's sick is the man gave him the tapes. And then they went and broke his elbow, punctured his spleen, punctured his bladder.
They looked like state troopers, I'll say that. Clinton can be a very dangerous individual in the state of Arkansas.
In my lawsuit in 1990, I named the lady Sally Perdue as having an affair with Bill Clinton. Sally had an apartment in Little Rock, and the Clinton security guards would drop him off at her apartment and go park in the woods. When Clinton got through doing his business, he was flicked with a porch light and they'd know to come and get him. She started coming out, started talking. Well, believe it or not, before she could talk, Clinton's people got to her and offered her a federal job or break her leg, whichever one was the best.
Sally Perdue, former Miss Arkansas and radio talk show host, carried on a sexual relationship with Governor Clinton between August and December 1983. State troopers in government vehicles were used at taxpayer expense to shuttle Clinton back and forth to Sally's home. Perdue, who today supervises a home for people with Down syndrome, was offered a $60,000 a year federal job to keep quiet. She refused.
And you see, that's illegal. You can't offer a federal job to get someone to hush.
Following her attempt to go public, Miss Perdue lost her job and started receiving threatening phone calls and letters. Live ammunition was found on the seat of her car, and the rear window of her vehicle was shot out. Even though a number of witnesses have corroborated her story, the American press has refused to print it. During the 1992 presidential campaign, interviews with ABC and NBC, as well as an appearance on the Sally Jesse Raphael show, were taped, but were never aired.
She had actually been on the Sally Jesse Raphael show right after the New York primary. Did you know the TV stations around the country blacked out that program and wouldn't show it?
In December 1993, former bodyguards of Bill Clinton came forward with detailed information regarding the governor's sexual encounters with a number of women. Larry Patterson and Roger Perry, both veteran Arkansas troopers, boldly spoke on the record. Two other troopers who initially spoke off the record were later identified as Danny Ferguson and Ronnie Anderson. In April 1994, a fifth trooper, L.D. Brown, came forward and corroborated their stories, adding that Clinton's sexual partners numbered over 100 during the period he was employed by the governor. The trooper's official duties included approaching women to obtain their phone numbers for Clinton, driving him to rendezvous points in state vehicles, guarding him during sexual encounters, securing hotel rooms, and lying to Hillary about his whereabouts. Phone logs and other corroborating evidence fully back these reports.
I saw on several occasions Bill Clinton engaging in sexual acts while I was either blocking the road or working security at the governor's mansion. I saw them with my own eyes take place. So it's not a rumor, it is firsthand.
The entire conversation inside a vehicle in a 2-hour drive from one point to another would be totally about sex and women or jokes. He would actually ask people how they performed oral sex on women in cars. I'd been in that conversation. He would ask if you had ever had 2 to 3 women at one time in one bed. Things like this. Bill Clinton was obsessed with that.
The first or second time that you're with him and you're alone and you see some attractive woman, he would say, "Hey, Larry, what would you like to do to her?" And, you know, this is the governor of the state of Arkansas.
The majority of his off time was spent trying to figure out ways to be with women that he wanted to be with. He was more discreet during a campaign year than he was in a routine year as governor, an off year.
We were required to work overtime so we could sit outside someplace and block the road or sit in some driveway or sit at some, apartment complex while he went in to take care of his female friends. State money was utilized.
He had certain troopers that he used for certain women. And Larry Patterson and Danny Ferguson were used for 2 women in particular.
He would tell you, "Larry, see the blonde-headed lady in the green outfit? Go get her name and her telephone number for me." He would say, "She has that come hither look." And that was verbiage that he used quite often. And on several occasions I have gone out into the crowd. I never had one of the females to refuse to give me her name and her address.
On one occasion, it was a Christmas parade of 1989 in a small town.
Get your clothes here. We have good stuff.
And he picked a lady out of the crowd and asked me to find out who she was. He just carried on about how beautiful she was, how good looking she was, how big her breasts were and things like that. And I found out that she was interested in a state job. And she gave me her name and number, and I said, "Well, maybe the governor will call you, or can I call you?" And when we got in the car, I gave the governor her name with her phone number, and I said, "You'll like this. She's interested in a state job." And he said, "Oh, good. The next time I saw that lady, she was working for Bill Clinton in his presidential campaign the night he announced his candidacy for president.
I was told by Bill Clinton that this was part of my job, to keep people from finding out about his affairs.
Most of the women that Bill Clinton had sexual affairs with were well taken care of. They have good jobs, or their husbands ended up with good jobs. They were well taken care of, and the actual time spent trying to cover up these affairs while he was governor was nothing like it was when he announced that he was running for president.
In an attempt to silence the officers, the Clinton administration launched an elaborate counterattack, which included urging Ferguson to change his story and levying false accusations of insurance fraud against Perry and Patterson.
When Larry Patterson and Roger Perry came to see they substantiated everything that I'd alleged in the lawsuit. These people were there, they were his bodyguards. But watch what happened. The same thing that happened to me, they planned to do it to them. They roasted them in the media. They said they were committing insurance fraud.
The evidence of that these state policemen have brought forward relative to Clinton's womanizing is being questioned by the spin doctors as not being
I only deal with goods of the highest
Yet,
quality.
It is more credible than the evidence on 90% of the people who are confined now on death row across America.
Is this fair? Did y'all see there were papers saying that the troopers were telling the truth and were found innocent? There too, the stories they were telling have a basis, since they're not the scumbag that the spin doctors for Clinton tried to make them out to be?
These two have had the courage to come forward, and the evidence that they have presented has not only been credible, but it's been overwhelming. And the truth is, I'm convinced that it's just the tip of the iceberg.
On May 8, 1991, Paula Jones, a state employee with the Arkansas Industrial Development Commission, was working the registration desk for the governor's Quality Management Conference at the Excelsior Hotel. Governor Bill Clinton was to be the main speaker.
I was approached by one of Bill Clinton's bodyguards named Danny Ferguson, and I was given a number. And I asked him what it was. I held out my hand, and he said, it's a number to a hotel room that the governor would like to meet with me. Well, I was surprised, and I kind of talked it over with my coworker, and we didn't have any reason to believe that we couldn't trust him, so I agreed to go on up to the room and meet with Mr. Bill Clinton. I got to the room, and Governor Clinton, he opened the door to meet me. It was a room that did not have any beds in it. It had couches and stuff like that. It was more like a meeting type room. And he had asked me about my job and how I liked it and who my boss was, and I told him, and he mentioned that he liked the way that my curves were on my body, and he liked the way that my hair went down my back, the middle of my back. And then he tried to lean over, and he started to put his hand up my leg, which it happened so fast, and he tried to kiss me on the neck. It happened so fast that he tried to bend over and kiss on the neck as he was putting his hand up my leg. And I backed off. I said, I don't want to do this. And I said, I think I need to be going. And then he got up before I even knew it and dropped his pants. And Bill Clinton asked me to perform oral sex on him, which I declined. And I jumped up and I told him I needed to go immediately. That's when he went to say, if you have any trouble whatsoever, you have Dave Harrington, your boss, contact me immediately. And I said, well, I'm leaving. And I started to proceed down the hall to the door, and he followed behind me. He said if we could try to keep this between ourselves. And I went down the elevator, went back to my registration desk, and I told Pam the whole story.
I can't understand how somebody can take advantage of somebody like that. And then they had the audacity to drop his pants. I mean, you know.
I'm not going to dignify this by comment on it.
Paula gave the exclusive to the Washington Post, and Mike Isikoff, we were going to be as open as we could with the Washington Post. And Mike told Paula that as far as he was concerned, that he believed Paula, and that he thought the story should be told. And Mike said they were ready to put the story out, and they were going to go to the editors and present the story to him. We heard that Mike got suspended from the Washington Post, and there was a big fallout between the editors of the Washington Post and Mike.
Paula Jones filed a lawsuit against President Clinton, claiming sexual harassment. The same day, a massive media smear campaign against Paula Jones was launched.
Think about a man that has no more regard for women than Bill Clinton does. They're just sex things. I don't understand the feminist movement being behind Bill Clinton. He hangs women on his wall like trophies.
A number of women who have had sexual relationships with Bill Clinton have allegedly been given major career boosts in exchange for silence. Beth Colson received a judicial appointment to the Arkansas Court of Appeals from Clinton. Regina Blakely landed a job with CBS National in Washington covering the White House. Likewise, Deborah Mathis secured a lucrative job with the White House Press Corps. Susan Whitaker was made the liaison between the Arkansas State Capitol and the White House. Elizabeth Ward obtained a position with the Clintons' close friends, Hollywood producers Harry Thomason and Linda Bloodworth Thomason. And Joe Jenkins was given a high-level position with AP&L. One of the most harrowing stories of Clinton's attempt to keep his promiscuity hidden involves Jerry Parks, a private investigator and former chief of security for Clinton's campaign headquarters.
My father was Luther Gerald Parks, a.k.a. Jerry Parks. He was the head of Clinton security for Clinton's inaugural campaign whenever he was running for president. My father was brutally murdered at Chenal Parkway and Arkansas Highway 10 in one of the most elite parts of Little Rock, Arkansas. Someone pulled aside alongside him and started shooting at him. They cornered him, stopped him on Highway 10 as he was turning left on Highway 10 off Chenal Parkway. They stepped out of the car after blocking his path. He was shot 5 times, once in the leg, once in the arm, 3 times in the chest. My father had a file on Bill Clinton's infidelity and his affairs that ran from approximately 82, 83 to somewhere between till about 90 to 91. The file consisted of pictures, time, dates, places of where Bill Clinton was at, where Roger Clinton was at, the type of drug use that Bill Clinton and Roger Clinton were involved in. I was the only person that would ever go with him when he would do his private investigative work. And I remember 4 to 5 times that I was with him, and that's what he was keying on. I saw Clinton with a lot of different women, but a lot of different types, sizes, shapes, colors, one of them being Jennifer Flowers. You know, I was just like, wow. It was more neat than anything else that, you know, somebody that is this famous, this bigwig, can get away with this. This just blew my mind.
Shortly before Jerry's death, the phone lines at his home were cut, the security system was disconnected, and the Clinton files were stolen.
I believe my father was assassinated because he was the one link that could actually close everything and completely shut Clinton down. I feel that Bill Clinton had my father killed to save his political career. When I did contact Little Rock Special Investigative Services, they told me that they had been pulled off the case 3 weeks prior to that. That just blows my mind on how when I hear they're making progress, all of a sudden they're pulled off the case. Something's not right there.
Bill Clinton has been the way he is ever since I've known him. He hasn't changed. He will not change. People inside the White House today tell me that he's running sexcapades in and out of the White House like have never been there before. It's a disgrace to America.
If we had known his background, the people of Arkansas would have never elected him governor of this state. And I charge the media of this state for not doing their duty and exposing these things that have since become matters of fact.
He's a womanizing, dope smoking, liar, and a draft dodger. I don't remember those being in the Constitution is exactly the model qualities we want in a president.
I think the media has been part of the covering up of the actual true story of and the character of Bill Clinton. I believed with all my heart that the American people had the right to know what they had been sold. Bill Clinton is not the person that they voted for.
Voters who depend on the media for unbiased information regarding political candidates have been betrayed. Much of the information concerning ADFA, Whitewater, and Clinton's sexual promiscuity was known by the media as early as 1990, yet was kept hidden. The media's heavy pro-Clinton bias prior to the 1992 election was best summed up by Newsweek when they candidly stated, "Truth is, the press is willing to cut Clinton some slack because they like him and what he has to say." In May 1994, Newsweek added, "The national press has been restrained in its accounts of Bill Clinton's private life, and with good reason. Most of those who have made charges against him have been despicable people, jealous and stunted sorts."
What an indictment about the media. You knew the truth about Bill Clinton. You just didn't like George Bush. I know Bill Clinton, probably as well as anybody. We used to train him on how to look straight into a camera and lie through his teeth. And you see, part of Bill's pathological lying is the fact that we've taught him how to believe the lie that he's telling. And once he believes the lie, then he can sell it to you as the truth. The world is at risk when the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America is a man that will look at another government, who will make trade deals and lie through his teeth.
Clinton could get us involved in a hopeless quagmire easily in Europe, in Africa, in North Korea, in any number of places, because not only of his ineptness and his lack of understanding, but his contempt for military things. This goes back at least as far as the 60s, in his college days, when he not only attended and participated in anti-American rallies, but organized them. Back in the, and incidentally, those were not anti-war rallies. Those were anti-American rallies. He has no loyalty to this nation. He has no loyalty to its fighting men. He has not enough integrity to have any loyalty to its population. He knows how to say the right things, but he's lied for so long that I really don't think he knows the difference anymore between the lie and the truth.
Bill Clinton was dishonest on a daily basis. I mean, there's more dishonesty in his life than there is honesty. I mean, it's maybe being a politician in these days and times, you have to tell one group of people what they want to hear and another group what they want to hear. And if the truth conflicts, then so be it.
The media has not been able to ascertain today that there's a human being sitting in the presidential chair of the United States of America that lies with everything he says. They still believe somehow in the office of the presidency. They still believe there's some integrity there.
Attempts to keep the criminal activities of Whitewater concealed from the public were largely successful prior to the 1992 election. After that, however, the raging Whitewater Rapids could no longer be contained. What the Clintons claimed as a simple money-losing investment was in actuality a series of complex business transactions and cover-ups, ultimately costing the American taxpayer more than $60 million.
When this is all over, it's going to be the same story we've been telling for 2 years. We made a bad investment, we lost money, and there's really not much more to add to it.
We have enforced higher standards against the ethical conflicts than any previous administration.
Whitewater may have begun as a legitimate real estate venture, but it came to be used to skim, directly or indirectly, federally insured deposits from an S&L and a small business investment corporation. When each failed, the United States taxpayer became obligated to pick up the tab. 2, the family of the former governor of Arkansas received value from Whitewater well in excess of resources invested. 3, taxpayer-guaranteed funds were in all likelihood used to benefit the campaign of a former governor. 4, the independence of the United States government's regulatory system has been flagrantly violated in an effort to protect a single American citizen.
People should not be able to raise questions and erode people's moral authority in this country.
It quickly became obvious that Whitewater would engulf the Clinton administration if ignored. A twofold counterattack was put into action. The first was to win sympathy from the conservative populace, who were among his chief critics. Clinton embarked on a series of appearances, heartily promoting himself as a born-again Christian who supports and practices traditional biblical family values. While the uninformed may have been fooled, those who realized what was happening were outraged at the blatant hypocrisy.
This is a place where I have come to seek divine guidance and support and reassurance.
You know, after Bill Clinton was in office for 2 days, he signed 5 executive orders, shedding more innocent blood, the blood of innocent babies. Then he went on to try and get homosexuals in the military. He put Jocelyn Elders in, trying to distribute condoms to our kids. Christine Gebbe, his AIDS czarina, promoting all kinds of vileness. This is an affront to heaven.
The second phase of the counterattack was to appoint Robert Fisk as special prosecutor to head up the investigation into Whitewater. That same week, the Rose Law Firm began shredding documents.
A lady came to me scared to death, wanted to come out and tell the truth. I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "They're shredding documents at the Rose Law Firm." Well, I tried to tell the media. The media said there was no way that could be going on. Well, in came a journalist from a Washington newspaper. He goes over, investigates what I told him. And you know what? The very week he investigated, guess what they were doing? Spreading dollars right there at the Rose Law.
They had his initials pretty much all over it. Everything from the box to the manila files to I even saw his signature on one of the Rose Firm letterhead.
You see, all of the Whitewater documents, they're getting rid of them. They're getting rid of them as fast as they humanly can. It's the nerve and audacity that those two people, Bill and Hillary Clinton, have to shred documents, to destroy evidence in a federal case.
That is why we're here in front of the Rose Law Firm, because of the works of darkness that have gone on. Documents have been shredded here. What else has gone on here? I'm telling you, there are people inside this building that right now they're saying, if they only knew, if they only knew.
During that same week, there was also a fire at the Worthen Bank building.
Now, this fire was on the 14th floor, and supposedly it was started by a space heater. I want you to look at this footage and tell me if you think it was an accidental fire by a space heater. This is a CPA firm, and the documents that were in this office were important documents relative to Whitewater. If you go back to Arkansas and you look at the Secretary of State's office, anybody that's ever run for office in recorded history, you can find out who their major campaign contributors are since day one, except for one person. Bill Clinton's records at the Secretary of State's office disappeared. You see, they did it then. They'll do it now. All the information pertinent to Whitewater, any notes left by Vince Foster, any personal documents that would lead anywhere to any type of criminal activity, they're just going to be destroyed.
Fisk's initial assignment was to quell rumors regarding the alleged suicide of Vince Foster. Foster was a senior partner with Hillary Clinton and Webb Hubbell at the Rose Law Firm prior to his appointment as White House Deputy Counsel.
In fact, he was handling the Clintons' personal legal matters while he was in the position of assistant to the president, in violation of a conflict of interest at that time.
From the outset, the investigation into the death of Vince Foster has been marred by controversy. At Bill Clinton and Attorney General Janet Reno's insistence, responsibility for the investigation was turned over to the Park Police, even though Foster's death fell within the jurisdiction of the FBI. Not until his death had sufficiently developed into a full-fledged scandal 7 months later would the FBI be allowed in. The results of the FBI's investigation, along with the findings of the Park Police and coroner, were incorporated into a report issued by Special Counsel Robert Fisk. The report, released June 30th, 1994, confirmed suicide as the cause of death. However, a careful examination of key pieces of evidence taken directly from the report itself indicate a number of alarming contradictions inconsistent with the report's own conclusion that Foster took his life. The official coroner's report depicts a large gaping 1-inch exit wound located 3 inches below the crown of Foster's head. According to Fisk, the area surrounding the body at the park was meticulously searched to a depth of 18 inches, but no brain tissue or skull fragments were found. An FBI analysis found none of Foster's fingerprints on the gun, despite the fact the gun was found in Foster's hand. However, the FBI did make one extraordinary discovery. One latent fingerprint was visible on the underside of the right pistol grip, approximately 2 inches from the base of the grip. This print did not belong to Foster. No attempt was made to determine the identity of the person whose print was found in the gun's hand grip. Gunpowder was found on Foster's clothing, which did not match the gun found in his hand. Fisk speculated that gunpowder of a different type was accidentally thrown onto Foster's clothing by an exhaust fan in the Park Police laboratory. However, once again, Fisk was not able to support this theory with any evidence. One of the most crucial pieces of crime scene evidence, the fatal bullet, has yet to be found. A thorough FBI search of the area, which even uncovered artifacts dating back to the Civil War, yielded over 70 pieces of metal, including 12 modern-day bullets. Yet, none of them matched the gun found in Foster's hand. Against standard police procedure, not one resident living nearby was ever contacted during the investigation to find out if a gunshot was heard. Even though Fisk insists that Foster killed himself, leading forensic experts from around the country now agree it is highly unlikely he pulled the trigger himself. Within minutes of the verification of Foster's identity, the Park Police issued orders to seal Foster's office at the White House. David Watkins, Clinton's administrative assistant, assured the police he would take care of it. He lied. Immediately,
I'm reading an
high-ranking
important
members
part.
of Bill and Hillary's staff began ransacking Foster's office, removing important and possibly incriminating documents. The people entering the office included Bernard Nussbaum, counsel to the president, Patsy Thomason, White House administration director, and former assistant to cocaine distributor Dan Lassiter, and Margaret Williams, Hillary Clinton's chief of staff.
Patsy Thomason was the top aide
What?
for
Are
Dan
you
Lassiter
serious?
when he was running his company and doing all the dope. You can only say that she was there for Dan Lassiter's interest in the White House.
As mentioned earlier, the Arkansas Development Finance Authority had been laundering its drug money through the Bank of Credit and Commerce International. BCCI collapsed in the early 1990s. Millions of depositors and taxpayers lost billions of dollars, making it the worst banking scandal in history. Heading up BCCI was former Defense Secretary Clark Clifford. The overwhelming criminal charges against Clifford were eventually dismissed by President Clinton. The attorney for Clifford and BCCI was none other than Robert Fisk. Fisk knew that a thorough investigation of Whitewater would eventually lead to ADFA and his former client, BCCI. Fisk also knew he would never be able to complete his investigation since it is illegal to prosecute a former client. Fisk was not selected by the Justice Department to investigate Whitewater at all, but to simply subpoena documents and testimony, making sure they never see the light of day.
The investigation of Whitewater is being handled by an independent special counsel whose appointment I supported. Our cooperation with that counsel has been total.
Now think just for a moment. If they're papers that prove you did nothing wrong, then why would you destroy them so that they don't come out? Why would you hide behind subpoenas in the cloak of secrecy? No, see, Bill and Hillary Clinton have something to hide. And only through a congressional hearing does this nation have a snowball's chance of that truth coming to the light of day.
The candelabra of Elian's love will enlighten your house.
That the Congress of the United States rise to the occasion and meet their responsibilities to hold public hearings relative to this matter during this period of time, or justice will never be done.
There are lots of people that come to me that want to tell the truth. They come to me, but they're afraid. They're afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid of family members or themselves being hurt.
This is my hard-earned money.
Bill Clinton doesn't own the world.
All
He
sins
doesn't scare me.
can.
He shouldn't scare you. I wish all of y'all would do what I've done. Stand up. Stand up for the country. I want my daughter to know that if you stand up and tell the truth, you're okay. Right now, all she sees if you stand up and tell the truth, you'll be destroyed. If you're a pathological liar, lie through your teeth, every breath, hurt people needlessly, you'll get to be president.
Your blessings.
You don't want that. I don't want it. If I had anything to say to Bill Clinton, you know what it'd be? It's bound to
Follow
be a
Elian
great burden
and
for all.
repent.
Please cure my
The
child.
road to salvation awaits.
Bill, tell the truth. Come clean. All you may not get to be president, but the truth will set you free. It'll set all of us free, and it'll save the nation.
I've still not been accused of anything wrong because I haven't done anything wrong. And I'm not going to do anything wrong.
Although the documented information contained in the Clinton Chronicles continues to be reported in England and other countries, here in America, the media blackout continues. On July 14th, 1994, copies of the Clinton Chronicles video were hand-delivered to every member of the United States Senate and House of Representatives. On July 25th, documentation supporting the film was presented to Congress at their request. Whitewater hearings were scheduled to begin the next morning. However, the then House and Senate majority leaders, plotting with Robert Fisk to withhold evidence, refused to allow any of this documentation to be admitted. In addition, eyewitnesses willing to testify under oath who could confirm Clinton's involvement in the Arkansas drug smuggling money laundering operation were flown into Washington, but were barred from giving any testimony. Once again, the Constitution of the United States was undermined, and the American people were not allowed access to the truth. That same day, a massive media smear campaign was launched against the Clinton Chronicles. Time magazine, Newsweek, U.S. News and World Report, and major newspapers around the nation simultaneously published false information about the video in an attempt to diminish its distribution. Nevertheless, members of Congress point to the Clinton Chronicles as playing a major role in bringing about the firing of Robert Fisk, as well as the reopening of the investigation into the death of Vince Foster. On August 3rd, 1994, Larry Nichols was arrested on false charges of writing 2 bad checks and failing to obey a yield sign 7 years earlier. The American media reported the arrest. When the Arkansas police admitted that the checks and traffic violations were fabricated, charges were dropped. Yet the media failed to report it. Nichols has suffered 3 attempts on his life since the release of the video. Federal agent Bill Duncan, a 15-year IRS veteran with a permit to carry a gun, was arrested for carrying a weapon, then handcuffed to a pipe in the basement of the Washington, D.C. police station, and later released. This incident effectively brought the MENA drug smuggling money laundering investigation to a halt. Duncan was later instructed by his superiors to lie to a federal grand jury regarding the results of his investigation. When he refused, he was forced to resign. Arkansas State Police investigator Russell Welch nearly died after being poisoned with military-grade anthrax, a poison available only through the United States government. Arkansas State Police investigator Dr. Lauder, who successfully led the investigation against cocaine distributor Dan Lassiter, was forced to resign after attempting to reopen the cocaine trafficking investigation into Don Tyson. John Brown, Saline County homicide detective in charge of the Ives Henry murder investigation, was removed from the case after providing Congress with information linking the Clinton administration to drug trafficking in Mena, Arkansas. Brown was forbidden by his superiors to discuss Clinton's connection to the Ives Henry case, and after his refusal to do so, was forced to resign. In February 1994, veteran journalist L.J. Davis was beaten in his Little Rock hotel room. His attacker tore pages from his notebook which contained information about the inner workings of the Rose Law Firm and the Arkansas Development Finance Authority. In March 1985, Wayne Dumond was castrated and subsequently imprisoned for allegedly raping Bill Clinton's 17-year-old cousin. Even after evidence had proven that Dumond had been falsely accused and was completely innocent, Clinton blocked his release from prison. To date, every case which would link Bill Clinton with any criminal activities have been effectively shut down by various governmental agencies.
The one office that all of us universally look up to, irrespective of what party or political philosophy we espouse, is the presidency of the United States. Since the election of Bill Clinton in 1992, we Americans, with sadness, have learned week after week to have different stories come out from around the country pointing up the reality that we have in the White House today, a draft-dodging womanizer who is a pathological liar. It's a very dangerous thing for America and a dangerous thing for the world. I can only, conclude that the responsible course for the House of Representatives to do is to introduce a resolution of impeachment against Bill Clinton. It is with sadness that I make this statement, because this action will introduce something that we Americans don't want to see in our political process. But we can't continue down the course of what we see unfolding before our eyes almost every week or almost every day. And the best thing for all of us is to get it out in the open and go forward and let the chips fall where they may. Under our Constitution, the House introduces a resolution of impeachment, and the U.S. Senate is a place where a trial takes place. And I think for the good of the country, for the good of the peace and tranquility of the Western world, this is the course that Congress should take.
One.
Issue, but I agree with you on Assange. I would offer him a pardon. Look, they threatened to kill this guy. They threatened to drone him. They put pressure on the British government to actually withdraw the diplomatic recognition of Ecuador so they could rush the embassy and arrest him because he was the man with the...
All right, guys, stay there. We're going to come back. I want to ask you guys...
Or CNN sucks, CNN sucks. This was an audience that wanted to let the world know what they were angry about. And last night, his audience wanted the world to know what they were supporting and why they were supporting it. It was the most positive 15 minutes for Donald Trump in the entire campaign, and that includes the conventions, because it was all about reaching across the aisle. It was all about unity, about empathy, even compassion. And it's the opposite of what Trump's message was. If this stays his message over the coming weeks, watch what happens. You actually will get people starting to believe in Trump as someone who can govern, because up until last night, that's not what we thought.
When it comes to governing, Juliana, a lot of eyes are going to be on Congress. There was a lot of talk and analysis ahead of the game about whether Trump would be a drag on down-ballot Republicans. It looks like he might have been exactly the opposite.
And this was one of the other huge surprises of the night, is that Democrats were not able to take control of the Senate. And even Republicans heading into last night were saying, by any measure, we should be losing every single one of these tough toss-up races. The Access Hollywood tape was the game changer working against us. And, you know, Republicans, that didn't end up happening. Republicans in tough re-election battles were able to ride the same waves that Donald Trump rode into the White House. Now, again, what is Washington going to look like? That is the big question mark that everyone's trying to figure out today. I think a lot of Republicans in the Senate and the House are also trying to figure out what that's going to look like. What is the relationship between Paul Ryan and Donald Trump? And that hasn't really been smooth sailing up until now. What's the relationship between Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell? But regardless, Republicans are waking up this morning a significantly emboldened majority.
And Paul Ryan is a policy wonk, and Donald Trump is not. Paul Ryan is very steady, and Donald Trump is not. And so you've got a personality clash as well as a policy clash. So now the question becomes, if Trump says, I'm against trade, I'm still against trade, does Paul Ryan
were uncomfortable with Donald Trump, and then they decided that the common
establishment regain control over its intra-party insurgency. How did so many people, pollsters, media, you name it, fail to see what was bubbling under the surface?
Well, I think they saw the anger and the fear, the dissatisfaction, not only among Republicans, but remember, Bernie Sanders got 43% of the Democratic primary vote. So in both parties, there's a lot of dissatisfaction. I think what people just failed to see that it would continue all the way through. I think a lot of people thought, here's Donald Trump, people are mad, they're attracted to him, but sooner or later they'll start looking for solutions and they'll maybe go to somebody else. Well, that did not happen, and Trump, you got to give Trump credit. He stayed with what he thought would win and his people thought would win, and that was to go into the industrial Midwest and win back voters who had voted for Ronald Reagan, but certainly weren't weren't Republicans, many of them, and those people stayed with it. Their political bosses in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania could not dislodge them.
Yeah, certainly. What happens to some of those never Trumpers? You know, we had some radio talk show hosts that were the never Trumpers. We have Ben Sasse, the senator from Nebraska, as well as Lindsey Graham, who, by the way, have congratulated Donald Trump today. But what happens to that entire movement?
Well, I think Donald Trump wants to get things done. I think that's his first priority. He wants to make America great again, which means he wants to get things done. He does not want to be like Obama, who most of what he has done, particularly after the first 2 years, was done by executive order, which can be reversed by the new president with literally the stroke of a pen. So that means he wants Congress to pass things that will achieve what he wants: a better economy, more better paying jobs, safer streets. You know the message that he has.
Yeah.
But he's got to have Congress working with him. He's blessed
Paul
with
Ryan today, the House Speaker, said that he would be happy to work with him, opened the door, and was very gracious himself, despite all the flaps that those two gentlemen have had. So we will certainly be watching that. Haley Barbour, former chairman of the RNC and governor of Mississippi. Haley, thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Donald Trump's victory setting off protests in the state of California. Police in L.A. say at least 500 people swarmed the streets around UCLA early this morning, shouting anti-Trump phrases. There were also marches and walkouts at universities and high schools across the state. Demonstrators in Oakland, though, actually getting violent. Some smashed windows and set fires. No word yet on any arrests. Well, it's the election that's defying all the rules of polling.
The entire punditry industry, the entire polling industry, the entire analyst industry, and I want to use this opportunity to take my fair share of the blame. We were wrong. I don't have egg on my face. I have omelet on my face.
That's Larry Sabato from the UVA. So what about those exit polls? We'll tell you what they're telling us about what voters want. And the defense secretary issued a memo to the military staff from top to bottom, what Ash Carter says he will do for the incoming president.
America is now making history, but not in the way we ever intended. We are now over $19.5 trillion in debt. Entirely unacceptable. Hi, I'm William Devane, and we are now in more debt than we've ever been. And paying this down anytime soon looks pretty grim, which is why I protect my assets and buy gold from Roslyn Capital. Whether you want new or old gold coins or premium collector coins, Roslyn has them all. Plus, what you order is what you get. No gimmicks, no nonsense, no hassle. And they still have the fastest shipping around. So if you're concerned about this, protect yourself with this. Buy gold and silver from Roslyn Capital. What's in your safe?
Call now and get a free gold kit, a free silver kit, and a free IRA transfer kit. Call 800-630-8900. 800-630-8900. 800-630-8900.
If you have Medicare, I have 3 things you'll want to hear. There's an all-in-one Medicare Advantage plan from Humana. It includes Medicare Part D prescription drug coverage, and it may save you money in so many ways. It's all in this book, and it's yours free just for calling. You'll see all the ways the plan might save you money, even on prescription drugs. In fact, Humana Medicare Advantage members can expect to save almost $500 in premium this year through our pharmacy benefit management efforts. And you get all this coverage with an affordable monthly plan premium, and in some areas, no plan premium. Even if you've looked at Humana before, you need to take another look at this plan. We'll send you the decision guide absolutely free, in a slightly smaller size, of course. Discover the all-in-one Medicare Advantage plan that could cut your costs and cover your prescriptions. Call 1-800-552-2950. Or go to humanabigbook.com. The savings are too big to miss.
Define your style at Men's Warehouse. Now through November 13th, buy one, get one free on seasonal favorites throughout the store. And designer suits are just $249.99. Plus, layer up for warmth with 50% off all outerwear. Men's Warehouse. Rise to the occasion.
what the others aren't covering, what the media is missing, and what America needs to know. When it comes to the issues impacting you, no one tells you the truth like Tucker. Tucker Carlson Tonight, premiering Monday only on Fox News Channel.
I would like to take a moment to address my fellow veterans, because I know there are so many of you who have served your country honorably, whether it's 2 years, 4 years, or 32 years like myself. One of the benefits that we as a country give you as a veteran is your eligibility for a VA loan. Not 80%, but 100% the value of your home, and that's what you can get at New Day USA.
Go to newdayusa.com or call 1-855-707-5775. It's a new day for veterans who want to refinance.
That's me.
The New Day 100 VA loan lets you refinance your mortgages, consolidate your credit card debt, get cash, and lower your payments an average of $640 a month. New Day will even pay for your appraisal.
That's me.
As a vet, you've earned the right to apply for a home loan that's VA guaranteed. For veterans who want to refinance, that can mean a lot.
That's me.
Call New Day USA now, 1-855-707-5775.
Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division. Have to get together. To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people. It's time.
Well, there you have it. There seems to be no doubt that Donald Trump's resounding victory is the result of a deeply divided country calling for change. If you're asking how the polling could be so wrong, you're not alone in that.
We, that is the whole industry, we have a lot to learn from this. How is it that you capture people who maybe won't talk to pollsters? You know what really got me? After hundreds of surveys, we've plugged hundreds of surveys into our system, and over 90% were wrong, and they managed to miss almost entirely this tremendous turnout in rural America.
Boy, did they ever. Trace Gallagher is live with what the Fox exit polls are now saying. Trace, I mean, that's a question so many people are asking today.
And you know, Heather,
how did they miss it? Why didn't people admit that they were going to vote for Donald Trump?
Yeah, we were saying the same thing last night, like 1:30 in the morning, going, what in the world is going on? But I'll tell you, one of the more fascinating numbers of the election is that Americans said Hillary Clinton was more qualified by 14 points than Donald Trump, and yet anger at the direction of the country seemed to outweigh qualifications. And for months and months, pollsters and pundits said that because of changing demographics, Donald Trump needed to get significant chunks of the minority vote, and yet white voters seemed to propel him. Let's look at national numbers. Among white voters, Donald Trump won by more than 20 points. Among working class whites, he won by nearly 30%, and with white men, Donald Trump well outperformed Mitt Romney. Let's look at two key states. First, Florida, where Trump packed big numbers of college-educated white voters and working-class whites. But look at his numbers in Florida's large Cuban-American population. Trump won by 13 points. That is a huge reversal from 4 years ago when Mitt Romney actually lost the Cuban vote to President Obama by 2 points. And then there was Pennsylvania, which has been taunting Republicans since 1988. That's the last time Democrats lost. Michael Dukakis. This was supposed to be solid for Hillary Clinton, but look at the reversals in major counties. Hillary Clinton was down from President Obama in Philadelphia County, which encompasses Philly, York County in central Pennsylvania, and then you've got Lackawanna near Scranton. Only in Bucks County, which borders Philly, was she up. Trump was up huge across the board, including 12% in York County, 36% in Lackawanna, and 9% in Philadelphia. Really, the bottom line on all these numbers is that of the voters who were angry with the federal government, 77% of those voters, Heather, went for Donald Trump.
Trace Gallagher, it's fascinating to look at those numbers and see where we are today. Thank you. Well, Donald Trump's victory sent global markets into a panic for a while. And here's a look at the Dow, which is now up about 252 points. But the Dow futures were down as much as 800 points overnight. Liz Clayman from the Fox Business Network joins me now. Hi, Liz. So what's happening?
Heather, I'll tell you what's happening. People who have 401ks, pensions, stock portfolios should be pretty happy right now. We are climbing back up to session highs. Session high for the Dow is a gain of 258 points. We're up 253 right now, but across the board, we're seeing real strength across the board. So we're talking about large companies like the big names, Coca-Cola, the Dow 30, those moving higher. And then you've even got the smaller cap names. So we do have the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P very strong at the moment. A lot of things are getting lifted here. Let me tell you some of the winners. Pharmaceutical names, biotechnology actually develop drugs, aerospace and defense. Donald Trump has said he would spend a lot more on military. Regional banks, big financial names, infrastructure stocks. Remember, he said he would do about $500 billion in investment on infrastructure. That means get ready for big, heavy equipment companies like Caterpillar, et cetera, to be called upon to help build bridges and things like that. What's losing? Solar stocks, utilities, things like emerging markets, healthcare, equipment, real estate. But I need to flip it over to auto stocks. Remember, Donald Trump has said that he would impose punitive tariffs on cars and companies like Ford, General Motors, and Fiat if they move their operations overseas. So right now, those big three automakers are seeing losses on some of their stocks. But at the moment, it seems like a very positive feel here. Again, I always like to remind people, in the long run, we have seen 33 recessions since the late 1850s. Trust us, folks. We'll see another one. But right now, it's a great day on Wall Street.
I'm glad we don't remember those from the 1850s, Liz Kleeman. Not old enough. Liz, thank you so much. Fascinating to see how the industries are responding to Donald Trump and his priorities. Well, Defense Secretary Ash Carter is saying that he is determined to have an orderly transition, a sentiment that President Obama says that he agrees with, and the president urging Donald Trump to commit to that one as well.
A sense of unity, sense of inclusion, a respect for our institutions, our way of life, rule of law, and a respect for each other. I hope that he maintains that spirit throughout this transition.
Our Fox Pentagon producer, Lucas Tomlinson, joins us live from the Pentagon. He is always working this, Lucas. Lucas, when is the last time a president-elect had to pick a new defense secretary?
Well, Heather, remember that when President Obama came into office in 2009, he brought with him President Bush's defense chief, Robert Gates. So it's been since President Bush was in office that a new defense secretary was named and brought in. Bush nominated Donald Rumsfeld in December of 2000, and so that is the last time a new defense chief came in with the president-elect. Now, as you mentioned today, Defense Secretary Ash Carter sent a memo to all DOD employees congratulating them on, quote, standing apart from politics and for continuing to carry out their dangerous missions around the world. Over the next few days, members of Donald Trump's transition team are due here at the Pentagon to begin meetings and discussing that transition. Heather? And
so many of us are anxious to hear what he's going to do about Iraq, ISIS, Syria, and Afghanistan, all of those. But I want to ask you today about Syria, and there is something new that's developing on the Russian warships in the Mediterranean Sea. What's going on there, and why is it important?
Well, Heather, I'm told to expect a sharp escalation in Russia's military campaign inside Syria. There are 7 Russian warships in the eastern Mediterranean right now that are centered around the flagship aircraft carrier Admiral Kuznetsov. Pentagon officials here are seeing the MiG-29s conducting flights off the aircraft carrier. These flights, these Russian jets are armed. Officials had not seen that before since this Russian convoy left northern Russia at the middle of last month. The convoy came down from Norway, brazenly sailed through the English Channel, and I'm told that these jets have not yet conducted strikes in Syria, but they are flying these armed missions over Syria. And U.S. and NATO surveillance planes like this P-8 Poseidon pictured here have been intercepted, I'm told, multiple times, trying to get a peek at this Russian armada. Outside of the aircraft carrier, there's also 3 Russian destroyers which are capable of launching cruise missiles into Syria. So it's a real steep escalation, Heather, I'm told. And in a sign of how strained ties remain between Russia and the West, the U.S. Army is delivering its largest shipment of ammunition to Europe in more than 20 years. Heather?
To Europe. Okay. Lucas Tomlinson, a lot to keep an eye on. Thank you so much for joining us. Talk to you again. Well, one of Donald Trump's first actions could be to nominate a Supreme Court justice, a choice that could change the direction of the court for generations to come. We'll take a look at Trump's short list when we come back.
This most awarded luxury cruise line is bringing its legendary experience to Europe's majestic waterways. Introducing Crystal River Cruises, an all-inclusive, truly exclusive travel experience that's in a class by itself. With state-of-the-art river yachts boasting impeccable design and elegant, spacious suites. Enjoy every luxury imaginable. Butler service for every suite, glorious spas, open spaces, exceptional dining, and so much more. Unique excursions into Europe's most iconic cities, historic landmarks, breathtaking landscapes, and local cultures, with voyages along the Danube, Rhine, and Main rivers, ranging from 7 to 16 days. Come explore Europe's enchanting waterways with Crystal River Cruises, the world's only luxury river cruise line.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7. Channel 115.
Shepard Smith on the Fox News deck. We'll talk to political strategists from both sides of the aisle about what's next for our nation and the incoming Trump administration. The Wall Street Journal Associate Editor John Bussey weighs in on what went wrong with so many polls. And Judge Andrew Napolitano talks about why weed was a big winner last night. That's top of the hour on Shepard Smith Reporting. We'll see you then.
Welcome back. President Obama's Supreme Court nominee may be off the table for good now. Republican senators were reportedly considering movement on Judge Merrick Garland, but that was before Donald Trump's surprise victory. Now the president-elect is expected to choose his own nominee. Chief legal correspondent Shannon Bream is here now with more, and we're so lucky to have you in New York right now.
It is great to see you.
So, Shannon, what happens now?
Well, it's interesting because last night, after the exit polls were sort of trickling out, but before the actual results were coming in, I spoke with one GOP senator who said there was growing support for the possibility of moving forward on Judge Merrick Garland during a lame duck session if Clinton was elected. Garland, of course, is President Obama's nominee to replace the late Justice Antonin Scalia. Well, that is obviously no longer the scenario. It appears the Supreme Court drove many voters yesterday. Check out these numbers. Exit polls show that 7 out of 10 voters rated Supreme Court appointments as the most important or a major factor in their voting decision. And of those who rated the Supreme Court a priority, 56% voted in favor of Trump versus 41% for Clinton. Trump's already released 2 lists of possible nominees. They include GOP Senator Mike Lee, who once clerked for Justice Alito. Now, when his name was floated back in September, a spokesman for Lee seemed to brush off this whole thing, saying Lee was too busy campaigning to be reelected to the job he really loved. Well, this morning, Lee congratulated Trump, saying he looked forward to helping him repeal Obamacare, reduce regulation, and confirm conservative judges.
Yeah, that's not a spot you want to turn down.
Yeah, well, another interesting name on the list is this guy, Texas Supreme Court Justice Don Willett, who's made pretty clear on Twitter he's not Trump's #1 fan. Worked in the Bush 43 administration. He's prolific on social media, including some very pointed jabs at Trump. And we also have Judge Dianne Sykes, a conservative favorite. She serves on the 7th Circuit right now, just one step below the Supreme Court. She's been in private practice, served both as a county judge and on the Wisconsin Supreme Court before taking her current post. Of course, this appointment is going to be one of Trump's first concrete tests, especially for many conservatives who said, by the way, Heather, this was one of the only reasons they were comfortable voting for him.
And
so we'll see.
Talking to voters in Wisconsin yesterday who were voting for Donald Trump, they said that that was one of their top issues as well.
Clearly it was.
Shannon Bream, thank you so
Good to
much.
see you.
Great to see you. Well, one battleground state that's played a big role in Donald Trump's victory, Ohio, the same state every Republican has needed to reach the White House. Peter Ducey is live for us in Cleveland. Peter, hello. Did Trump need a big turnout to win Ohio? Of course he did.
He did not.
No?
In a historical context, Heather. No, he didn't. Last night actually had the lowest turnout for a presidential election in Ohio since the last time a Clinton was on the ticket. The unofficial 2016 turnout number from the Secretary of State is 69.32% of registered voters, and that is the tiniest amount here since 1996's Bill Clinton versus Bob Dole matchup, which drew just 67 and change. Still a lot. It is interesting to point out, though, Trump was able to win on the same ballot as incumbent Republican Senator Rob Portman, who didn't want anything to do with Trump, and without the help of the popular Republican governor John Kasich, who celebrated a few years ago when the RNC convention was awarded to his state, but then didn't show up when Trump was the one accepting the nomination this summer. Kasich was among the Republicans most resistant to the thought of supporting Trump for president, so that call for unity represents a big call. A big change. Clinton just did not perform very well in urban areas like this one. Trump performed a lot better than expected in traditionally blue areas of the state that a lot of Republican candidates don't even go to, like the Mahoning Valley. And local experts are saying today, and party officials, that a lot of people in the Mahoning Valley and places like that went red because union members who've been voting Democrat forever wanted something different. Heather?
All right, Peter Doocy. Peter, great. Thanks. Great to see you. Well, a looming recount and a Senate seat in the balance right now. It is a tight race in New Hampshire with a razor-thin margin. One side is now claiming victory. We'll tell you all about that one when we come back.
Lobbying is about foresight, about anticipating your opponent's moves and devising countermeasures.
How does she manage that?
Our system is rotten, and I will fight to change it.
You can't possibly win this. Start an inquisition.
I've used whatever resource I have. You crossed the line.
You know the word annihilate? It means reduce to nothing.
It's about making sure you surprise them, and they don't surprise you.
Miss Sloan, rated R.
When your pain reliever stops working, your whole day stops. Try this. But just one Aleve has the strength to stop pain for 12 hours. Tylenol and Advil can quit after 6. So live your whole day, not part, with 12-hour Aleve.
The movement swept the nation and Trump took the presidency. Now get powerful reaction from our experts about the historic vote on a must-see Hannity.
Do you suffer from varicose or spider veins? Do you experience leg fatigue, heaviness, aching, pain, swelling, or restless legs? Are you embarrassed by the appearance of your legs? Dr. Miller performs safe, effective, and convenient outpatient procedures for symptomatic and cosmetic varicose and spider veins.
I'm so glad I made the call. I have a wonderful rapport with Dr. Miller.
Call the New Jersey Vein and Vascular Center to schedule your free consultation.
Hi, I'm Dr. Miller. Let me help you get your legs feeling better and looking younger.
The Smoke Rise Village Inn, where beautiful country charm comes together with award-winning cuisine and courteous service. The inn's cobblestone courtyard and country gardens are the perfect setting for outdoor lunch and dinner dining. Our recently renovated dining room hosts a daily happy hour and live music, as well as intimate fireside dining. Let our experienced catering professionals help plan your next private event, with rooms ranging in size from 20 to 200 guests. Located just minutes off of Interstate 287 and Route 23 in Kinnelon.
I just hit my car. I wish I knew what to do.
Did someone say wish? CNL Auto Body's 24-hour towing service is always available. Since we're a one-stop shop, we have rental cars on site at all of our locations. CNL Auto Body has been in business since 1984. Our certified technicians will make sure to return your vehicle to pre-accident condition. We do it all.
Looking for these? You drive Buzz. Could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Senate Republicans holding on to their majority. Democrats only picking up one seat so far in Illinois, with Mark Kirk losing to Democratic Congresswoman Tammy Duckworth. House Speaker Paul Ryan talking about Republican wins earlier today. Listen to this.
I want to congratulate Ron Johnson, something that we worked so hard here at home on his victory. Ron, Scott Walker, and I just spent 4 days on a bus in Wisconsin, crisscrossing this state, urging all Republicans to come together to unify to win, and that's exactly what happened. Donald Trump provided the kind of coattails that got a lot of people over the finish line so that we could maintain our strong House and Senate majorities.
David Drucker is a senior political correspondent for the Washington Examiner. David, great to see you. So what happened? Because a lot of folks in the mainstream media and a lot of establishment Republicans thought that Donald Trump would drag down what they called the down-ballot candidates. That certainly didn't happen.
No, it didn't. Earlier in the election, earlier in the campaign, it appeared as though it would happen. At times it was happening in most of the polls. For instance, Republican senators in the battleground states were overperforming Donald Trump's numbers in the same polls. But on Election Day, where it counted, Republicans got turnout thanks to Donald Trump, and Democrats did not. And that helped Republicans win in states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. I think it aided Republicans in Florida and Ohio, although I would argue that Rubio and Portman set themselves apart earlier on. But clearly, Donald Trump is not a drag on Republican candidates at the end of the day. In fact, quite the opposite.
Even Paul Ryan saying that he, really helped Republicans and that he helped get them over the finish line. What do you see his role as? Of course, we're talking about the House Speaker now going forward.
Of course. His role will be carrying out Donald Trump's agenda in the House of Representatives. Donald Trump is now the leader of the party. He won the election. And so the party will carry out the agenda that he wants. Now, there are times when congressional Republicans and Donald Trump will agree on an agenda. I think the repeal of Obamacare is one of those. Building up the military, more ships, more tanks, more troops, they'll agree on that. But there are other areas where they don't agree, but it doesn't matter because Donald Trump is going to be running the show. That's always how it is when a party runs the White House. Their lieutenants in Congress do what they want. We saw that with President Obama and the Democrats in 2009 and 2010 when they controlled both houses of Congress, and we will see it with the Republicans.
Kellyanne Conway was on Fox and Friends this morning, and she talked about what she called undercover voters, a new term we hadn't heard before. I want to get your reaction to that. Let's listen.
It's not that they're embarrassed to say they're rooting for Donald Trump. That may be some people, but what they are is they're tired of arguing with people in their social circle or their families, because normally these people would vote for a Democrat, and indeed many of them did vote for President Obama twice. Some of them even voted for President Bill Clinton twice. But the undercover Trump voters, small but potent force, they want to take the country in a new and different direction.
Is that what happened here? That some people just wouldn't admit that they wanted to vote for Donald Trump?
Well, I think we're going to need to look at more of the exit polling and more of the voter rolls that come out of yesterday's election to have a definite answer on that. I think what we do sort of know is that there were a lot of there were just a lot of voters in some of these Rust Belt states that supported President Obama and supported Democrats previously that voted for Donald Trump. They've been longtime Democratic voters. They voted for Trump, and I don't know if they were I don't know if they were undercover per se, or if just the voter modeling of who they were going to vote for just missed the mark. We'll find out.
Yeah, David Drucker, thank you so much. Washington Examiner, great to see you. Well, the election may be settled, not just yet. There is a nail-biter taking place in New Hampshire with a possible recount already looming, and this could affect the numbers in the House. We'll be right back.
Washington's out of control, the debt's out of control. Nothing in that story is going to change, so you have to.
The U.S. debt is increasing an average of nearly $2.4 billion every day.
This is an unsustainable practice. It's going to end, but when it does, it's going to end very rapidly and very disruptively.
Call 1-800-654-1010 for this exclusive report, The Screaming Fundamentals for Owning Gold.
We're about to enter the greatest financial reset in history. So now is the time for people to invest in hard assets, to get their plan together, and to really understand the context behind what's about to happen.
Call Lear Capital for your free report and discover how hard assets like gold and silver can help protect your savings. Plus, find out how you can get up to $500 in free gold or silver.
It can't go on forever. And when it bursts, it's going to be the most destructive bubble in all of human history.
This offer ends soon. Call 1-800-654-1010. 1-800-654-1010.
I'm terrible at golf.
He is.
But I'd like to keep being terrible at golf for as long as I can.
New patented Ensure Live has HMB, plus 20 grams of protein to help rebuild muscle for the strength and energy to do what you love. New Ensure Live. Always be you.
Swinging the rod in average flannel. Swinging the rod in Duluth free swinging flannel. Duluth Trading free swinging flannel. Let freedom swing. Only at DuluthTrading.com.
Hi, I'm Barry Sloan with NewTek, your business solutions company. Does your business need money? Whether you need $10,000 or $10 million, you can count on NewTek, the nation's largest non-bank government-guaranteed lender. NewTek can help your business expand and grow. With a simple phone interview, we can pre-qualify you in just 48 hours. And with rates as low as 6%, you can see why so many businesses turn to NewTek. To see how easy getting a loan can be, contact NewTek, your business solutions company, today.
At PXG, our company colors are black and white for a reason. The golf club either looks sexy or it doesn't. It either launches higher and goes further or it doesn't. It either feels softer, is unbelievably forgiving, and has a sweet spot the size of Texas, or it doesn't. The golf club is either good enough to be called the world's finest or it isn't PXG. Nobody makes golf clubs the way we do, period.
They say inflation is right around the corner. So if your mortgage APR is higher than our 2.75, you'd better make the cash call at 855-890-CASH now, before the inflation boogeyman steals it. That's 2.75 with no closing costs. Call today.
A winner declared in the tight race for Senate in New Hampshire. We've been following this race all morning long. Democratic Governor Maggie Hassan declaring victory over incumbent Senator Kelly Ayotte. Molly Line is live for us in Manchester, New Hampshire. So, Molly, is this official now?
Yeah, well, the Secretary of State's office has put out their official numbers in this very hotly contested Senate race. And as you mentioned, the governor here, the Democratic Governor Maggie Hassan, has claimed victory over the incumbent Senator Kelly Ayotte. They're just a little more than 1,000 votes separating the two, according to the Secretary of State's office. That is a fraction of a percent. Hassan claiming victory today, and her campaign releasing a statement saying, as senator, she will always put the people of New Hampshire first, and she will work to heal the divisions this election has exposed and fight to build a future where all Granite Staters are included in our shared economic success. Heather?
Molly, I was talking to the chairman of the RNC earlier today, and I asked him about this race, and he predicted that there would be a recount. What is Ayotte's camp saying?
We are waiting to hear back from Senator Ayotte's campaign. They have not conceded at this point in time. They did put out a statement earlier today that said that this has been a closely contested race from the beginning, and we look forward to the results being announced by the Secretary of State and ensuring that every vote is counted in this race that has received an historic level of interest. So party insiders here on the ground also telling me that it would be possible and even likely that the Ayotte campaign may very well pursue that recount, but we are waiting to hear that officially. Heather?
All right, Molly Line live for us in Manchester, New Hampshire. That just goes to show that every vote certainly does count. 1,023 votes between the two of them at this point. Everybody, thanks for joining us. It has been a long campaign season. You all hung in there. Thank you so much. Great to see you today. Our Fox team did a great job. I'm Heather Nauert, and let's hand it off over to Shepard Smith next door in studio. See you tomorrow.
It's noon on the West Coast, 3 p.m. in New York City, where today Donald Trump woke up as President-elect of the United States of America. One day after the most stunning election upset in American history. For his supporters, it was a day of celebration, of jubilation, of affirmation of all they believed. For his opponents, it is a day marked by devastation, tears, and questions of how this happened. But today, Americans will do what we do every election, attempt to put aside differences and come together around our new leader, because our peaceful transition of democracy is the tradition that has stretched across centuries. Today, we'll look at what happens now. You'll hear from the Trump team and from Hillary Clinton herself. And we'll look at the effect this election has on markets, on foreign policy, on health care here at home, as our nation looks to heal its scars and mend its fractures, earning a bruising political process. And as always, looks to move forward. So let's get to it.
Now, Shepard Smith reporting live from the Fox News Deck.
And first from the Fox News deck on this new day in America, millions were not happy. The media would not listen. Hard-working people in America's heartland and beyond wanted more out of our nation and more for their lives. The analysts and the pundits did not seem to notice. So many Americans were sick of the system, all the politicians and their broken promises. Still, the pollsters did not hear them. Never again. The so-called silent majority sounded a screeching wake-up call and a warning that they are silent no more. The champion of the disaffected, Donald J. Trump, a billionaire who has never before served any public office, will now be president of these United States. In the end, it was not even close in the Electoral College. The Fox News decision desk has Donald Trump with 274 electoral votes right now. But with Michigan, Arizona, and New Hampshire still too close to call, Donald Trump could well pass the 300 mark. As for the popular vote, Hillary Clinton has a slight edge of about 200,000 votes. Small consolation for a woman who's now run for president twice, only to have a rival stun the political world by snatching it away. Today, Secretary Clinton addressed her staff and her supporters, admitted her disappointment, but called for unity in our deeply divided nation.
This is painful, and it will be for a long time. But I want you to remember this. Our campaign was never about one person or even one election. It was about the country we love and about building an America that's hopeful, inclusive, and big-hearted. Donald Trump is going to be our president. We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead. Our constitutional democracy enshrines the peaceful transfer of power. And we don't just respect that, we cherish it.
Secretary Clinton's remarks echoed Donald Trump's own speech last night, in which he praised his one-time rival.
We all want what's best for this country. That's what I heard in Mr. Trump's remarks last night. That's what I heard when I spoke to him directly, and I was heartened by that. We all go forward with a presumption of good faith in our fellow citizens. Because that presumption of good faith is essential to a vibrant and functioning democracy. That's how this country has moved forward for 240 years. And that's why I'm confident that this incredible journey that we're on as Americans will go on. And I'm looking forward to doing everything that I can to make sure that the next president is successful in that.
President Obama, with a voice that had seen a difficult night, reminding himself of what Donald Trump had said, speaking of humility.
She fought very hard. Hillary has worked very long and very hard over a long period of time, and we owe her a major debt of gratitude for her service to our country. I mean that very sincerely. Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division. Have to get together. To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people.
Still, make no mistake, the outcome of this election is a repudiation of President Obama's time in office, one that leaves his legacy very much on the line. With Republicans holding on to both houses of Congress, Donald Trump's promise to repeal and replace Obamacare is a real possibility. That's just one example of how the nation could be headed in a dramatically different direction. In 71 days, Donald Trump will take the oath of office for the most powerful position in all the land, challenged to become not only a leader for his loyal base or the Republican Party he now firmly controls, the task now to become president for all Americans and to bring our divided nation back together. We have Team Fox coverage. Jennifer Griffin here live in New York City, where Secretary Clinton gave her concession speech. But let's begin with campaign Carl Cameron, live at Trump Tower in New York City, home of the next president of these United States. What did Trump's team see that everybody else seemed to miss, Carl.
Well, first of all, we got to remember that we talked about a lot. The margin of error is plus minus, so if it says 3.5, that's really a 7-point gap, and the players could be flipped in the opposite directions. That definitely happened. But even the Trump campaign's own internal polling reflected what the public polls reflected. What mattered was Trump's appeal to working-class white voters across the country and their ability to find them in some of these blue states. And for that, they used social media and big data analytics. They put in a whole bunch of criteria for the things that they know were appealing to Trump supporters in the primaries and across the country, and they went to Minnesota and to Wisconsin and to Michigan and New Hampshire, and they searched that data. They searched those social media accounts. They buffeted them with emails. They buffeted them with information. Then Trump went there in the closing days of the campaign. He didn't go there early. He didn't go to Michigan. He went to Michigan a few times, but he didn't go to Minnesota or Wisconsin all that often, except in the primaries. And then in the last week, he timed that momentum that we saw that started when the announcement was made by the administration that the Affordable Care Act premiums were going to go up next year, followed by the reopening of the email investigation. Those two things focused Donald Trump. He caught a wave, and he surfed it right into the White House, Shep.
He really did. Trump and Clinton were both gracious with the results, but any indications Democrats will be willing to work with the coming Trump administration?
Well, the loss they suffered last night requires the Democratic Party and its brain trust to sit down and try to figure out what they missed, too. There's going to be some bloodletting in the Democratic Party as a consequence of this. The WikiLeaks that made public the types of backroom discussions that all political parties have has done tremendous damage to the Democratic Party. There may be some Democrats who are going to be eager to work with a Trump administration specifically because they recognize they got slapped last night. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is going to be up to Donald Trump and his ability to keep the Republican Congress in check. They now would control both chambers of Congress and the White House. So as you say, they can advance an agenda. That's what's so important with the transition. The transition is something that is an absolutely huge job and will begin to illustrate what his first 100 days will be about, what the administration will actually look like. There's thousands of jobs to fill. So now comes a real sprint, because one of the things that Trump ordered in the closing weeks of this campaign was that the transition chairman, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, essentially take about half of the 150 employees that they had working on it and put them into the campaign so that they could win it first. Wouldn't do much good if they had lost. So they have a lot of work to do, and how the transition plays out, we expect that he'll go to Washington tomorrow. The president has an open invitation to meet with him tomorrow. And then from there, he may start making a few speeches to talk about exactly what the first 100 days will look like. Shep?
Carl Cameron at Trump Tower. Nap time yet?
Not yet. Got a few more days, maybe more.
Indeed. Carl Cameron, man, what a great journalist. Thank you. Hillary Clinton and her team recovering from last night's really historic upset. Clinton's running mate, Tim Kaine, had tears in his eyes as he introduced the former Secretary of State this afternoon, saying, "I'm proud of Hillary because she loves this country." Senator Kaine also pointed out Hillary Clinton is leading the popular vote, even though Donald Trump won more than 270 electoral votes to win the White House. Clinton could become the 5th presidential nominee in U.S. history to lose the election after winning the popular vote. As they put it from the White House today, everybody knew the rules going in. Jennifer Griffin live here in Manhattan, where Secretary Clinton delivered her concession speech. Jen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Shepard. Well, we were inside that ballroom behind me in the Wyndham New Yorker Hotel. It was clear this was a hastily arranged news conference. It was not the speech that Hillary Clinton was hoping that she would be delivering today. We had always said that she was preparing 2 speeches, but I'm not sure we really believed it or that her staff really believed it until last night. In fact, inside that room, there were a number of staff who were crying, a lot of tears. Hillary Clinton herself and the wife of Tim Kaine came out wearing purple in an effort to say that the country needs to come together. Red and blue, purple was what they chose to wear today. She did not end up breaking through that highest, hardest glass ceiling, but here's what she said.
To all the women, and especially the young women, who put their faith in this campaign and in me, I want you to know that nothing has made me prouder than to be your champion. I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think.
Donald Trump ended up redrawing the political map in this country. He proved the pundits wrong. He proved the pollsters wrong. And in the end, it was not the narrative of shifting demographics that led to a Clinton victory. It was instead, again, that working class voter in those Rust Belt states who delivered the election to Donald Trump. It'll be something that the historians look at for some time to come. One thing that is notable coming out of the exit polls that we've seen so far is that Donald Trump did in the end manage to win 10% of white women voters over Hillary Clinton. She won more women voters than Donald Trump, but it was the white women who helped put him over the edge, as well as, of course, those working class male voters. Back to you, Shepard.
Jennifer Griffin at the end of a long campaign. So proud of you. Thank you. Researchers and historians will for decades debate why some of the polling got it so horribly wrong this election season. From the national surveys to the swing states, all of the metrics. Lots of major polls pointed to a Hillary Clinton victory last night. In fact, almost all of them. Some analysts say the polls did not account for the so-called undercover Trump voters. Maybe were embarrassed to say that they supported the Republican nominee, or maybe no one was listening to them in the rural areas of America where they came out in numbers we've never seen, the Florida Panhandle. Other analysts say Democratic turnout was simply lower than the pollsters expected, while Trump beat turnout predictions. The exit polls show white women and evangelicals came out for Trump in a big way. Let's bring in John Bussey, the associate editor of the Wall Street Journal newspaper. To live it, 10 storylines in a night, and to watch it unfold in this great American experience was extraordinary.
Yeah, it was remarkable, wasn't it?
It was.
And, you know, it may have come down also for the pollsters. They're wondering, okay, how did we all get this wrong? There was an LA Times poll that got it right. But most of the pollsters got it wrong. And one factor was that, look, he was a controversial character.
Yes.
He was saying stuff that was really...
Didn't sound like our America.
It didn't sound like our America, and it wasn't like our America,
No.
and it was vulgar at times, and you know, he was talking about, you know, assaulting, you know, sexually assaulting, you know, women. All of that got some voters in a position when somebody called them up. They said, you know, I haven't decided, or I'm
Don't
gonna
talk to me.
Yeah, don't talk to me. I'm not going to say that I support Trump, when in fact they were supporting Trump. And these were people.
And yet I'm in a reality where I look around my neighborhood. What are my kids going to do? The factories are closed. I don't see any hope. Our schools are deteriorating. I've been talking to politicians for years. I have nowhere to put them. So what am I supposed to do? I don't have any alternative. I tried last time. It didn't work. Now here we are. I have one thing to do. I'm not going to talk to you about it right now, but we got to have a change, and that's what I'm doing. But I'm not telling you.
Yeah, that was it. And also the you know, they didn't vote for Obama or Mitt Romney the last time, and the presumption for some pollsters were that they were very unlikely to vote again, when in fact they were just waiting for that to happen, right? For that type of candidate to come along.
How can
they engage with? Look, here's another polling, you know, instance. Business last night, the markets sold off.
It was terrifying.
We were watching this thing as Trump got closer to winning. The markets went from a 300, the futures index on the Dow and the S&P, the futures index on the Dow was down 300, 400, 5, 6, 7, 800 points.
5%.
Now take a look at it. So
we're up 300. And you know what I figured that was? For months, we've been hearing from the smarty analysts of finance that if he's in there, everything's going to hell. But no one thought he was going to be in there, so they never really thought of it. Then when it went to hell, all the people who moved money said, oh, wait, they told me everything's going to hell. Sell, sell, sell. And then they woke up.
Hedge my bets. Yeah, that's right.
And then they woke up and said, oh, wait, the sun came up. Wait, the American process endures, and the fundamentals are still the same. Buy it all back.
Yeah, well, a lot of that happened. And part of it also was that they were ready for the status quo in the Clinton administration. There was gridlock in Washington, and they would just kind of deal with it, right? They had heard him talking about positive things, like a tax cut from 35% to 15%.
And they liked it.
For business. Well, they liked it, but they really hadn't metabolized that in their decision-making because they didn't think he was going to get elected. All that money overseas, repatriating those funds at a one-time 10% tax hit, which would fund some of the infrastructure spending that he wants to do in the United States. All these things just seem kind of, airy-fairy because
not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Well, then today comes along and they begin to think about it. And this is partly the result of that. But also, some businesses, Boeing, Procter & Gamble wrote a letter sponsored by the National Association of Manufacturers.
While you're speaking, the market just hit a brand new high never before seen in the history of this nation.
It's called the Bussey effect. They wrote a letter. Look, there's a great deal of anxiety within business, right? The polling within business isn't over yet, but the polling got it wrong, or maybe just overreacted last night. The way human emotion gets into it or overreacts at times.
Where are we now? I would assume there's a period of volatility, there's uncertainty, there will be change. Markets get weird when that happens.
Yeah, so the business community particularly is going to be looking for signals. Who are you going to put in charge of Treasury? Who are you going to put in charge of Commerce? Are these just jobs being handed off to your surrogates who did your job for you in the field, but aren't necessarily qualified, to do the jobs? Or are you putting people in there that business and that the public can feel confident in? Is there an opening up? His comments last night, I got to reach out. I want to make sure everybody feels part of this administration. It was a pretty quick summary of that. He didn't dwell on that.
No.
As long as perhaps those who had lost might have wished he had dwelled on it. If that comes, if there's more of that sort of expression as well, things begin to settle down.
Thank you for your participation on the Fox Broadcast Network last night.
A pleasure. It was very interesting.
It was an experience of a lifetime.
Yeah, quite historic.
More on the breaking news on the Wall Street drama ahead. The Dow at one point, as we mentioned, was down 750. The futures were. Now we've just hit a high that has never been seen in the history of these United States. The Dow has never, ever been that high. What exactly is going on? The changes that are ahead. We'll check in with the Fox Business Network next on this Wednesday in America.
Are you a veteran, own a home, and need cash? You need to know about the New Day 100 Home Loan for Veterans. It lets you borrow up to 100% of your home's value, not just 80%. And that can mean a lot more money for you and your family. With our military service, veterans like us have earned a valuable VA benefit, the right to apply for a VA home loan. The New Day 100 VA loan lets you refinance your mortgages, consolidate your credit card debt, put cash in the bank, and lower your payments an average of $640 a month. And New Day will even pay your appraisal fee. That could save you up to $500 or more. So call New Day USA. They look at your whole financial picture, not just your credit score. And they'll do everything they possibly can to get you approved. Call them today.
Refinance for up to 100% of your home's value. Go to newdayusa.com or call New Day USA now at 1-855-429-4866.
I do quite a bit of holiday shopping, and I use Ebates for all of it. I earn cash back just by doing the shopping I was going to do anyway.
It gives you cash back on anything and everything that you buy for your family.
Not only do I get all my holiday shopping done in a short amount of time, I get money back for doing so.
I could use that cash back to buy more gifts, or actually a gift for myself.
Sign up for free, shop at your favorite stores, get paid. Join today and get a $10 bonus at ebates.com.
The full line of Ram ProMaster work vans offer better fuel economy. Upfits tailored to fit your business. Greater cargo capacity. And easier access to your workspace. Ram ProMaster and ProMaster City let you maximize every hour, minute, and second even more effectively.
It's a win for Trump. So now what? Bill's getting answers, insight, and reaction from his panel. This is a must-see factor tonight.
Snoring, gasping, breathing pauses, and fatigue could be signs you suffer from sleep apnea. The dentists at Aesthetic Smiles of New Jersey offer effective solutions for sleep apnea. Doctors Romano and Vaccaro can diagnose sleep apnea conditions with an in-home sleep study. It'll help you obtain a safer, healthier night's sleep. Aesthetic Smiles of New Jersey, 973-285-5480 or at asnj.com. World-class smiles guaranteed.
Who's your friend?
He's downloading TV shows for me. This is legal, right?
Listen, Marv, just hit the TV to Go tab on the Optimum app and you can watch full seasons of shows old and new from networks you subscribe to, plus extended sports coverage.
I had no idea.
Don't feel silly. Not like you gave him your social security number or anything.
You had such a trusting fit.
TV to Go on the Optimum app, a simpler way to watch it all.
Not to dwell, but since it's such a good thing, stocks bouncing back in an enormous way after taking a dive as the race for the White House dragged on last night. Over here, a look at the overnight lows. The Dow futures, would you look at that? Dow futures, as we were up in the middle of the night up in here, down 867 points. The Dow off 4.74. Look at the S&P. This is the broader index. This is the S&P tells us more about the economy as a whole, our system as a whole, than anything else. It was down 5%, the S&P. And the NASDAQ futures, that's the tech-heavy, look at that, also down 5%. NASDAQ down 248. That was in the middle of the night. And would you look at it now? The Dow is in territory never seen in the history of the United States of America. Record highs across the board in all the indices. The Dow itself, we have never, ever seen this. And last night we thought the whole world was burning down. Aren't we stupid? The Fox Business Network's Lori Rothman with the news. Lori, what is doing this, Lori?
So you know the phrase, Shep, buy the dip, buy low, sell high. It got real low last night, and so everybody's just piled into this market. So we've hit the magic number for a record close. If we hold above 18,636, this is a new record high for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. What was interesting to me, though, I'll tell you, around 3 o'clock in the morning when Trump was wrapping up his victory speech, the markets really seemed to stabilize then, and it's been a steady climb. And then after Clinton conceded earlier today, you really saw stocks dig in, gain traction. And look, I mean, Dow's up over 300 points. We've got just over a half an hour left of the trading session. And I'll tell you, as wrong as those pollsters were about the outcome of this election, the financial analysts didn't do too much better on this one.
We mentioned during the process last night, before anybody had called the election, just as the trends were coming, the Asian markets were collapsing. Right. They were sending out warnings across Europe. It was cataclysmic.
You know, it's important to point out that Asia did close about 5% lower, and that was, again, before Trump spoke early this morning, Eastern time. So look for Asia to rebound. Europe is stable. This has been a fantastic reminder for Europeans of Brexit, right? We get all of these polling shocks. So can't always believe what you read ahead of time.
Yeah, well, obviously you can't. So what does this mean for our savings, our 401ks, big picture in the main?
Okay, so a couple points. We're seeing interest rates rise today, too. So if you've got a whole lot of cash, if you increase your cash pie, if you will, on your asset allocation, that's good if you're saving money. So interest rates, you can get paid more for saving money. And in terms of your 401k, same old advice, step away. Leave it alone. I know we're at record highs here, but it doesn't mean that more volatility is not ahead, because there still is a lot of uncertainty. I mean, just look at the Mexican markets, right? Mexico's still a little bit nervous about Trump with some of those trade and immigration policies, which we talk about. The peso got crushed. Mexican markets were still down. That's just one example of some of the emerging markets. So we just don't know how it will all play out longer term. But many of my colleagues here at Fox Business are pointing out that Trump has a very solid pro-economic growth plan, and with a Republican majority in Congress, too, looks like he's going to put that plan in action, and that could mean good things for U.S.-based businesses.
It certainly does, all the way around. Optimism is the word of the day. Lori Rothman from Fox Business Network, our good friends on the next floor. Thank you so much. So with control of Congress and a resounding win for the White House, do Republicans now have, what's that word they use, a mandate? And how does Donald Trump bring together those who fought against his candidacy so hard? Also, what now for Democrats? What are Democrats? Clinton legacy? Obama legacy? The Democratic Party is in tatters. We'll talk to political strategists from both sides. Plus, a look at what could happen with the United States Supreme Court under a President Trump. We're not talking about just Antonin Scalia. There is so much more.
I thought I married an Italian.
My lineage was the Vecchios and Zuccolis. Through ancestry, through the DNA, I found out that
I was only 16% Italian.
He was 34% Eastern European. So I went on to Ancestry. Soon learned that one of our ancestors we thought was Italian was Eastern European.
This is my ancestor I didn't know about. He looks a little bit like me, yes.
Ancestry has many paths to discovering your story. Get started for free at Ancestry.com.
We asked a group of young people when they thought they should start saving for retirement. Then we asked some older people when they actually did start saving. This gap between when we should start saving and when we actually do is one of the reasons why too many of us aren't prepared for retirement.
Just start as early as you can. It's going to pay off in the future.
If we all start saving a little more today, we'll all be better prepared tomorrow.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
I'm Leah Gabriel with the Fox Report and more of today's headlines. A gunman in California was on a cocaine binge when he started shooting randomly people in his neighborhood. That's according to police who say the man killed his 77-year-old neighbor and badly hurt 2 others. Happened yesterday in Azusa, which is about 20 miles northeast of Los Angeles. Police say officers shot and killed that suspect. A hot light bulb fell onto cardboard at a steel mill in New York, starting a huge fire. This is in Lackawanna, just a few miles south of Buffalo. Black smoke billowing into the sky even after firefighters put out the flame. They told folks in the area to shelter in place. No injuries were reported. And a trolley crash in London killed 5 people and hurt more than 50 others this morning. Police say they arrested the driver and were still working to free some people from the wreckage. Investigators say they do not know what caused that crash. The news continues with Shepard Smith right after this.
See me.
See me.
Don't stare at me. See me.
See me.
See me to know that psoriasis is just something that I have.
I'm not contagious.
See me to know that I won't stop until I find what works.
Discover Cosentyx, a different kind of medicine for moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, proven to help the majority of people find clear or almost clear skin. 8 out of 10 people saw 75% skin clearance at 3 months, while the majority saw 90% clearance. Do not use if you are allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, you should be tested for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you have received a vaccine or plan to. If you have inflammatory bowel disease, tell your doctor if symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions may occur.
See me.
See me. See me on my way.
Find clear skin and a clearer path forward. For a different kind of medicine, ask your dermatologist about Cosentyx.
Bottom of the hour, time for the top of the news. You'll hear a lot today about the country coalescing around President-elect Donald Trump. The talk of healing that is really intrinsic in the aftermath of every hard-fought election here in the United States. Not everywhere, but it is here. Donald Trump may need to start that healing within his own party. After that absolutely blistering primary process, it was historically brutal. And the antipathy which characterized so much of the campaign season. He now has to find a way to bring Republicans together, all Republicans in this new world. And then, of course, work with Democrats to govern our nation. So it should be fine. Julie Roginski is a Democratic strategist and a Fox News contributor. Morgan Ortagus is a GOP strategist, former State Department press officer. She's also the national co-chair of Maverick PAC, a political action committee that works to get young professionals into politics. We covered this on the Fox Broadcast Network together last night, and you really weren't so much partisans as you were observers of an incredible American experience.
Amazing.
I'm guessing you've put your partisan hats back on, and now as the losing group, how you feel?
Like a big loser. Thanks for pointing that out. Look, I was wrong. I think a lot of people were wrong, but I certainly was wrong. I kept saying for months that math was going to be math, that numbers were numbers. I was wrong.
Because that had always been right.
Because that had always been right, and it turns out that sometimes there's a first for everything, and we had a first for everything. And congratulations to Donald Trump. Look, I'm of the belief, and I know some of my fellow partisans don't agree, but I'm of the belief, as you introduced the segment, that he is our president. We have one president at a time. We should unite behind him, hope he succeeds. I intend to work to support him where I agree with him, and I intend to be the loyal opposition when I don't agree with him. And I think that should be the case for everybody. I don't think we need a reflexive, let's oppose everything Donald Trump does from the Democratic Party.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. So I think they need to work with him where they can and disagree with him where they can, and give people a choice again in 2 to 4 years.
And make their true voices known, whatever they are.
Yeah, well, that's the question. What is the true voice of the Democratic Party today? Nobody knows.
There is no united voice.
right.
Your party is in tatters.
No question. My party's in tatters. The Republican Party is slightly behind us in being in tatters, only because I think there's a wing of their party that needs to come to terms with the fact that a lot of
their task is a little easier than yours. And I ask because if you look at what remains of the Democratic Party, is it the party of Bernie Sanders? Is it the party
of Chuck Schumer?
Of Chuck Schumer? Is it the party of a particular candidate who never really endorsed but then hugged her name Elizabeth Warren? Is it?
Could be. I mean, look.
Or is there a moderate something left?
I don't know. Look, back in 2004, out of the ashes of John Kerry's candidacy arose Barack Obama, who was a state senator. I remember at the 2004 convention giving an incredible
of whom no
speech.
one had ever heard.
Who nobody knew. So who knows? Could be Cory Booker. Could be somebody like that in 4 years. Could be somebody we don't know. Some state senator in Oklahoma, for all we know.
That's the Democratic side.
Yep.
Morgan, how are you today?
Well, we had the full Monty last night, right? I mean, this is what every party, what both of our parties hope for, to control 3 houses of government. So I think I'm still shocked because we were concerned about the presidency. We were concerned until 8:30 last night about keeping the Senate. So I think that we're all still trying to process the historic gift that the American people have given to us. So what I really feel as a Republican today is humbled, because I feel like the American people have totally repudiated the policies, the divisive policies of Barack Obama and of Hillary Clinton.
No question.
And they have handed us a gift. And what is, to me as a Republican, what is so important going into the next year and into President Trump's, it's still amazing to say that, into his first year is, what are we going to do and come together as a party? I do not believe that we can have the Never Trump crowd and the pro-Trump crowd going at each other. We can't go after Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, still have people in the party going after Trump. We need to take a cue from what George W. Bush and other leaders of the party did today, which is they called to congratulate President Trump, elect Trump.
Is John Kasich welcome?
You know, he's a sitting governor when it comes to what happens in Washington.
John Kasich is a long-standing, proud Republican. John Kasich is a man who went to Ohio, turned Ohio around. He was a leader within the party. He thought better of this experiment, and now is John Kasich welcome?
I think everybody is welcome in the party.
Okay.
I mean, we should not be picking, in my point, winners and losers. Donald Trump won last night.
Or
Republican
did the
Party.
establishment lose? Was this a vote for Donald Trump, or was this a vote against whatever was making people ill?
You know, I'm going to argue
both.
as much as I can to our party that this was a vote for our party, and that we need to coalesce around this historic opportunity that we have. Here, when we look at what's at stake, we have to replace Scalia. Thank God we have the opportunity to replace him now with someone like-minded.
Though you do not have the 60 majority that will allow it to go through smoothly.
I mean, 2 more years look good for us. But we'll see.
Ahead, yes.
We've got Obamacare, which Mitch McConnell said he's already going to have to deal with. I don't know if there's a person in the country that's satisfied with Obamacare and the rising premiums. On the foreign policy side, which is most important to me, we have the Iran deal, which stinks to high heaven, and that's going to have to be dealt with. I've already talked to people in the Congress this morning, said that they're talking about the snapback sanctions, reapplying some of the sanctions that expired on Iran. It's time to put
without the rest of the world.
That's fine. That's what leadership is for.
Okay.
And that's why you don't let the Middle East go into chaos like it has over the past 8 years.
Everybody's going to get along, right?
Well, no. Well, we're going to get along.
I remember.
I love Julie.
I remember 8 years ago being on the National Mall. The nation was in tatters. The stock market was at a record low. Our institutions were collapsing around us. There was no unity in America, and yet we stood and watched this peaceful transition of power, and the world watched in wonder again, as over the centuries America has always done this. And now we stand divided again, and on January 20th, we will stand on that mall and watch the peaceful transition of power, and America will be a shining example for the world. And once again, I'm so proud to be in America.
I'm with you. But then on January 21st, Mexico's going to have to build that wall. We're going to build that wall. Mexico's going to pay for it. We're going to deport all the illegal immigrants. We're going to destroy ISIS. I can't wait for those commitments to come to fruition, and I cannot wait for the Republican Party, which is to quote or paraphrase Colin Powell, you break it, you own it, the party of barn rule. You guys own it. You broke it. You own it. I'm going to sit back and watch the Republican Party come through on all the commitments they made to their voters who believed them and took literally the fact that Donald Trump is going to do everything he said he was going to do.
We air out our differences in transparency in America. It eventually becomes transparent. Thank you, Internet. And now we will do it again, as we always have, and I'm excited to document it. We all are.
Yep.
It's great to see you both. Thank you for staying up late with us.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
A Donald Trump presidency and a Republican-controlled Congress could mean big changes in the Supreme Court. Not just Antonin Scalia, as she mentioned. Analysts say the election destroyed the Democrats' chances for a liberal majority. It's over. Republicans now have the chance to set up a conservative-leaning Supreme Court for a generation. Back in March, President Obama nominated the federal judge Merrick Garland to the High Court after conservative Justice Antonin Scalia died. Garland has still not had a confirmation hearing, the longest wait for any Supreme Court nominee in the history of our republic. Republicans in the Senate have refused to schedule a hearing, saying the next president should fill the seat. Let the people speak. Ed Henry with more on this live in Washington. It's not just the one seat. Potentially there are more.
No, there could be maybe 2, 3 more after that, Shep. And right now, Democrats not happy because they say Merrick Garland was a fairly moderate jurist that President Obama put up. And not only did he not get a hearing, because of that, he didn't get a simple up or down vote. You've mentioned Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell said again today at a news conference that it's extremely rare for a president to get a court pick of any kind in an election year when the opposite party is controlling the Senate. And so he basically is making no apologies, McConnell, that they've blocked the Garland nomination and now have no plans to bring it up during a lame duck session of Congress here in the final days of this Congress and of the Obama administration. There's some chatter that during that lame duck in the days ahead, President-elect Trump may signal who his new pick would be before he's even sworn in. That may buy him some goodwill with conservatives that he's going to need for his broader agenda. But it's also something that's going to stick an eye again in the, in the eye of Democrats. And the new Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and others in the Senate might be upset about that, Chuck.
Hey, what are some of the names on Trump's list? He made the list public, remember?
Yeah. Which was unprecedented, really, that during the campaign, he put together a list, very specific, 21 names, largely put together by the Conservative Federalist Society. So Democrats are very wary of this. One name is Senator Mike Lee of Utah. He clerked for Justice Samuel Alito, and when his name was floated during the campaign, a spokesman kind of brushed it off. A lot of people expected, because Lee is close to Ted Cruz, it was more about Trump reaching out to Cruz through Lee. But this morning, Lee said he looked forward to working together with Trump, at least in the Senate, to repeal Obamacare and other matters. Justice Don Willett, another interesting name. He's a Texas Supreme Court justice. He's made very clear on Twitter, he's very active on social media, that he's not Trump's #1 fan. And Judge Dianne Sykes is a conservative favorite, now serves on the 7th Circuit, just one step below the Supreme Court. Interesting, because Trump made it clear during the campaign that he's going to try to move the court to the right. As I mentioned, Democrats still have a voice in this and are going to try to block him from that, Jeff.
Ed Henry on Capitol Hill. Ed, thank you. Some of those who may be disheartened by Donald Trump's victory can now, show perhaps some solace in weed, because a string of states legalized marijuana last night. Could this mark the moment that marijuana starts heading down the road to national legalization? Judge Andrew Napolitano with a look at that next.
I would like to take a moment to address my fellow veterans, because I know there are so many of you who have served your country honorably, whether it's 2 years, 4 years, or 32 years like myself. One of the benefits that we as a country give you as a veteran is your eligibility for a VA loan. Not 80%, but 100% the value of your home, and that's what you can get at New Day USA.
Go to newdayusa.com or call 1-855-707-5775. It's a new day for veterans who want to refinance.
That's me.
The New Day 100 VA loan lets you refinance your mortgages, consult your credit card debt, get cash, and lower your payments an average of $640 a month. New Day will even pay for your appraisal.
That's me.
As a vet, you've earned the right to apply for a home loan that's VA guaranteed. For veterans who want to refinance, that can mean a lot.
That's me.
Call New Day USA now, 1-855-707-5775.
Introducing Cologuard.
I'm here for an important reason. Colon cancer screening. If you're age 50 or older and at average risk, Cologuard finds cancer and precancer. And it's a non-invasive test you can use at home. In fact, I'm as easy as get, go, gone. How do you get me? Your doctor orders me, and I'm delivered directly to your doorstep. There's no need for time off or special prep, because I use the DNA in your stool to find colon cancer. Then you just go. I mean, collect your sample. Then I'm gone. Just ship me to the lab. Gotta go.
Cologuard is intended for individuals at average risk for colon cancer. Cologuard is not for high-risk individuals, including those with a history of colon cancer or polyps, IBD, certain hereditary cancer syndromes, or a family history of colon cancer. Cologuard, colon cancer screening that's as easy as get, go, gone. Ask your doctor if Cologuard is right for you.
Hi, I'm Jim Preston. I'm a passenger on the Avalon, and we have an emergency. We're on a 120-year journey to a new home. And the thing is,
This can't be happening.
we woke up 90 years too soon. It's good to see another face. It's not possible for you to be here.
There's something they didn't tell us. What's going on?
There's a reason we woke up early.
Rated PG-13.
Define your style at Men's Warehouse. Now through November 13th, buy one, get one free on seasonal favorites throughout the store. And designer suits are just $249.99. Plus, layer up for warmth with 50% off all outerwear. Men's Warehouse. Rise to the occasion.
They say inflation is right around the corner. So if your mortgage APR is higher than our 2.75, you'd better make the cash call at 855-890-CASH now before the inflation boogeyman steals it. That's 2.75 with no closing costs. Call today.
Wrap your head around this. Pretty soon it will be perfectly legal to get as high as you want in a number of more states, including the biggest one in all the land. Recreational marijuana use was on the ballot in 5 of our states last night, and it passed in 3 of them, and most importantly, it passed in California, plus Nevada and Massachusetts. Voters in Arizona rejected recreational use, and in Maine, it's still, as they say, all night. When it goes into effect really depends on state by state, but when it's all said and done, those states will join Alaska, Colorado, Oregon, Washington State, and Washington, D.C. as places where you should smoke them if you got them. Those places home to more than 20% of all Americans. Medical marijuana, a different thing, passed in 3 states, in Florida, North Dakota, and Arkansas. Voters in Montana rolled back restrictions on an existing medical pot law. So now the medical kind will be available in 28 states and the district. Let's bring in the judge. Andrew Napolitano, Fox News senior judicial analyst, is with us on the news deck this afternoon. California. I lived in California back when Fluff was a kitten. When they made...
I won't ask what date that was.
She's a full-grown cat now. They made it illegal to smoke indoors. Nobody had ever heard of this. Right. And everybody in New Yorkers looked at California and went, this will never happen. It swept the nation, swept it. It often begins in California.
Yes, California begins a lot of trends, not just social and cultural, but often legal. And it wouldn't surprise me if this trend begins to move eastward. It's very interesting the way you set this up, showing all the various states all across the country, more than half if you combine recreational and medical. And many of this by popular referendum, meaning millions and millions and millions, like the number of people that voted for one of the 2 candidates last night are in favor of this. Under President Obama, his Justice Department has not enforced federal law which prohibits all use of marijuana, whether for medical or for recreational use. There are some exceptions to that. It has to do with federally licensed laboratories. The administration of President George W. Bush enforced all federal law, irrespective of what state law was, and when that went to the Supreme Court, state versus federal, the Supreme Court sided with federal, because the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, as it states, and laws written pursuant to the Constitution trump, no pun intended, state laws. I mention Trump because the president-elect has said he will enforce federal law no matter what state laws are. So the good folks in California who voted for this, as well as Massachusetts and the other states, as well as the states where it's now lawful, may very well have the anomaly of local police saying, go ahead. State police saying, go ahead. Federales saying, no way. And then we have the clash.
Or we may have a President Trump who realizes he was not elected by a nation. That is not how we elect. He was elected by individual contests in individual states, and he was elected because people said this is what we want. Might a President Trump say, well, the people spoke regarding me not as a federal but as in state to state and as individuals, and they're speaking here, and let me think about this.
He might also say, why can't the states be laboratories of democracy and laboratories of cultural change? And if Nebraska doesn't want to make the change, that's fine with Nebraska. But if, as happened yesterday, if California or Massachusetts want to make the change, that's fine with them. What do we care? Besides, there's a very interesting argument, if folks are listening now, it will save tens of millions of dollars a year in federal law enforcement costs.
And in addition, the tax revenues for those with Colorado as our guide,
yes,
the tax revenues can be extraordinary because there is a secondary economy which is existing below the current economy through which no taxes pass.
Correct. So we'll see where this goes. California's going to take a few years for it to be licensed and all of that. But California is the rare state where the people can go above their legislature and write a law that the legislature refused to write, which is what happened yesterday.
Governor Hickenlooper in the state of Colorado recently on special on 60 Minutes, speaking of, well, what have we learned from the Colorado experience? What Governor Hickenlooper said, and forgive me for not remembering exactly, but his sentiment was, we've not studied this long enough. Does this protect our children from something we don't want them to have? Because, you know, the axiom is kids can't get alcohol anymore, but they can find all the weed they want because the bad guys are selling the weed and they're not regulated. That was one of the thought processes, and Governor Hickenlooper was like, wait, I don't think we know yet. We'll let you know when we figure this out. We haven't. Well, like you said, a social laboratory.
Correct. And there are problems with the social laboratory. Like you can measure blood alcohol content for alcohol.
Well, they're working on that.
But they don't have a measurement yet for marijuana if they stop you for being high while you're driving a car. So there are things that the states need to work out. But Colorado is taking the lead in working these things out. By the time it becomes legal in California, Colorado will have tried and failed and eventually found standards to be used.
Americans hated this idea forever. They would go to Amsterdam and say they could never work in America. The polls were so low on it for so many years, and then
28 states.
28 states.
More than half the population wants this in some form or another.
Get high. You want to. Just don't drive.
Where's Fluff?
Full-grown cat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just licking her wounds. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure, Sean.
Ahead, international reaction. Man, last night as this was happening, we get urgents on our computers from foreign leaders all over the world. They're holding a special session here. One country has just changed its interest rate. They're all saying we still want to be friends with America as their markets were collapsing. The reaction are still coming in, including from Vlad Putin. Stay with us.
You know that moment? The moment you realize you need to do something with your old 401k. When you changed jobs, you certainly didn't take a sabbatical. You didn't even go on vacation. So why should your retirement savings? Welcome to the new Scottrade. Whether you know where you're going or need guidance to get there, we're here to help. Now is your moment.
Oh, this is awful. Try it.
Oh, no, that looks gross. What is that?
You gotta try it. It's terrible.
I don't want to try it if it's terrible.
It's like mango chutney and burnt hair.
No, thank you. I have a very sensitive palate.
Just try it!
Guys, I think we should hurry up. If you taste something bad, you want someone else to try it. It's what you do.
I can't get the taste out of my mouth.
If you want to save 15% or more on car insurance, you switch to Geico. It's what you do.
Shh. Dog.
Trump wins in a stunning upset. How is D.C. and the nation reacting? Bret Baier has everything covered tonight on a powerful 2-hour edition of Special Report.
On the next Harry, Ricky Gervais, actor, singer, songwriter, dancer. Dancer? I told you. Plus, it's time for the ultimate test. Can I, Harry, survive one night in a very tiny house?
You're bigger than the tiny house.
Now I'm ready. On the next Harry.
Today at 4 on Fox 5.
November is the time when you really start to feel the pain of your home's bad windows, which makes it the ideal time for renewal by Andersen's countdown to Black Friday window sale. Our window sale is going on now and ends on Black Friday. But until then,
you'll get our biggest dollar discount of the entire year. $350 off every window and $900 off every patio door. With no money down, no payments, and no interest for a year. That means you can get your new windows now, but you won't pay for them for an entire year. Don't wait until the colder weather to deal with your bad windows. Renewal by Anderson's countdown to Black Friday window sale is going on now and ends on Black Friday. So until the 25th, you'll get $350 off every window and $900 off every patio door. For an appointment during our sale, call 1-800-917-2900.
You need to feel the spray of waves in Punta Cana. You need to hear the beat of Hawaiian drums. You need to see the ruins of Tulum above a Mexican beach. Liberty Travel knows what you need. And there's nothing we love more than creating your perfect travel experience. With our expert knowledge and insider tips, we'll bring you exciting, exclusive vacations you won't find anywhere else. Let our expert consultants plan your next adventure. Contact your local store to book your vacation now and enjoy great savings. Liberty Travel, connecting people and places.
Well, reactions coming in from around the world to Donald Trump's historic victory. The French president, Francois Hollande, congratulated Donald Trump today, but also said his presidency opens, quote, a period of uncertainty, unquote. During the election, President Hollande endorsed Hillary Clinton. The Russian president, Vladimir Putin, also weighing in on Trump's big win. Trace Gallagher on the Fox News deck. He's weighing in, is he?
He is weighing in. You know, the question is, does Vladimir Putin really want to start fresh, or is he just kind of playing Donald Trump to get what he wants? I mean, look, the whole campaign, Donald Trump praised Vladimir Putin, and now he's got to negotiate with this guy. We realize that Vladimir Putin wants certain things. He wants the sanctions lifted that we imposed because they went into Crimea. He wants the NATO troops pulled out away from the Russian border. The question is, what's he going to give in return? Will he stop firing on the U.S.-backed rebels in Syria? Will he stop propping up the Assad regime? He said this, and I'm quoting, "We understand and realize that it will not be an easy path, but we are ready to do our part and do everything to return the Russia-U.S. relations to a stable and sustainable track of development." We'll see how that works out. The problem is you have British and German leaders kind of a little leery because Trump has reached out to Putin, but he's criticized NATO, he's criticized trade agreements. Here's the British PM. Listen.
We have a long-standing and enduring special relationship which is built on our shared values of freedom, of democracy and enterprise. And I look forward to working with President-elect Trump.
Angela Merkel has also said that she, too, looks forward to working with Trump. Not what she said a couple of months ago.
Well, the French and the Germans both have big elections of their own coming up, and the right wing is nipping right at both of those people. And then there's reaction out of Mexico, too.
Well, and of course, you have the rapist comments, you have the wall, you have the trade agreements Trump's going after. So you have some national authorities in Mexico saying, look, this is a national disaster. It's an emergency. We need to take steps. And then they're saying, you know, a lot of this might have just been campaign bluster. But then you look at Cuba, right? Cuba, Trump's saying, hey, here's the deal. We want to roll back a lot of the openness that President Obama just gave Cuba unless Raul Castro comes out and gives his people more political freedom. In the Middle East, not surprisingly, Netanyahu loves Trump, right? It's all good with Netanyahu, but Iran is very worried about the nuclear deal going away. You have the Iranian President Rouhani saying, quote, Iran's understanding of the nuclear deal was that the accord was not concluded with one country or government, but was approved by a resolution by the UN Security Council, and there is no possibility it can be changed by a single government. Donald Trump says, no, I hate it, and we're pulling out of that thing. Yeah.
It's a whole new world. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And we will record it and tell you about it. Trace, welcome to New York. It's great to have you back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We'll be right back.
What are you doing?
Getting your quarterback. Fountains don't earn interest, David. You know I work at Ally.
I was being romantic.
You know what I find romantic? A robust annual percentage yield. That's what I find romantic. This is literally throwing your money away.
I think it's over there.
That way?
Yeah, a little further up.
What year was that quarter?
What year's that one?
98.
That's the one. You got it.
Nothing stops us from doing right by our customers. Ally. Do it right.
Let's get out of that water.
When people depend on you, you can depend on this. And with America's longest lasting pickups, you're always ready to lend a hand. Clear the way.
and carry the weight with load-leveling rear air suspension. So you can get there first and stay till the end. Great deals going on all month long at the Black Friday event.
Hi, I'm Scott Carter, CEO of Lear Capital. The media says the economy is doing fine. Are they telling the whole truth?
Japan is printing money. Europe is printing. England is printing. The United States is printing.
Everybody's doing it, printing money and manipulating financial markets. So it's not if this bubble will burst, it's when.
Call Lear Capital now and get your free video and insider report. Find out what the experts know and what they're doing to get prepared.
The stock market is rigged. They don't trust Wall Street, and for good reason.
Don't wait. Call now and get the truth about today's economy. See why banks and billionaires are buying gold and silver to help preserve their wealth.
Do what rich people do when they anticipate a crisis. They buy gold and silver, not more stocks.
Call now and kickstart your investment with up to $600 in free gold or silver. Plus, receive the industry's best research and expert DVD free. Call 1-800-885-1955. 1-800-885-1955.
Define your style at Men's Warehouse. Now through November 13th, buy one, get one free on seasonal favorites throughout the store. And designer suits are just $249.99. Plus, layer up for warmth with 50% off all outerwear. Men's Warehouse. Rise to the occasion.
Hi, I'm Jim Preston. I'm a passenger on the Avalon, and we have an emergency. We're on a 120-year journey to a new home. And the thing is, this we woke up 90 years too soon. It's good to see another face. It's not possible for you to be here.
There's something they didn't tell us. What's going on?
There's a reason we woke up early.
Rated PG-13.
Remember when you said men are superior drivers?
Yeah?
Yeah. Then how do I get this?
Allstate Safe Driving Bonus Check. Only Allstate sends you a bonus check for every 6 months you're accident-free.
Okay, let's try.
Silence. It's good to be in good hands.
Some more reaction from around the globe in our slideshow for you this afternoon. And first thing I want to show you is this newspaper from Mexico. This is one of the tabloids down there, the Metro. It says, Nos caigo. Loosely translated, it means we're screwed. In India, a group of people called the Hindu Army dancing and celebrating Trump's victory. This is Malaysia. A girl poses with a picture of a cardboard cutout of the president-elect at an election watch party, not to be outdone. In Senegal, a woman standing next to a cardboard cutout of Hillary Clinton. And finally, in Russia, traditional wooden dolls of U.S. presidents, including President-elect Donald Trump.
Wait, I'm raising an important point.
And on this day in 1906, Theodore Roosevelt became the first sitting president to visit any other country. He set sail on a battleship for Panama. Roosevelt said he wanted to see the construction of what he called the most important foreign affairs project, the Panama Canal, connecting the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. And an American president stepped outside our borders for the very first time 110 years ago today. We've been following the progress of the Dow, which was down 800 points in overnight, but then when it actually opened, it's up. We're very close to record territory. I mentioned earlier that we had hit record territory, and we hit a number, and it surpassed it, one that would have been the highest close in the history of the market. It's pulled back a little bit. People have sold some off and taken their profits, but that's a good day on a new day in America. Our job is to find out and report to you. It always has been, it always will be, and that's what we'll do. And when news breaks out, we'll break in, because breaking news changes everything on Fox News Channel.
All right, I think investors have sorted this out. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. And the emergence of Donald Trump as an unexpected, historic, stunning winner in the presidential contest was at first greeted when the street had its first opportunity to weigh it as an opportunity to sell off and off and off and off. What have I told you? We've had a roughly 1,000-point swing in the Dow, if you include the Dow futures, since, well, late last night, when it was beginning to look like it was not the way it was supposed to turn out. Now, by day's end, we had a very different reaction. The Dow flirting with all-time highs. What happened? Fox Business Network's Connell McShane.
What a day, Neil. It just seems like some who try to forecast what stocks are going to do are just about as wrong as those who try to forecast what voters were going to do. That turnaround is really remarkable. As we take a look at some of the winners in this trading action on Wall Street, you do get an idea of what people were thinking about with President-elect Trump. Some of the drug stocks did particularly well today. The likes of Johnson & Johnson and Merck and Pfizer. Pfizer was up 9%, Merck up about 7%. Also, President-elect has talked about infrastructure spending. Well, some big American companies like Caterpillar had terrific days. Caterpillar an 8% gainer in today's markets. Also, the banking stocks did well. The thinking is interest rates may go up. These banks make more money when they have higher interest rates to work with. So JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs are up about 6%, give or take a piece. And I mentioned Johnson & Johnson. It was up by 3% today. But it wasn't only us. As the world reacted to the reality that Donald Trump is going to be our next president, the European markets were higher today. UK, Germany, and France all up 1.5%. The only part of the world that really didn't get in on the act were the Asian markets. You mentioned our futures were down. Well, that was last night. Last night was today for trading at Asia, and Japan, Shanghai, and Hong Kong were down, and particularly Japan, where the Nikkei was down by about 5.5%. And the final thing I'll mention when we look at financial market reaction, Neil, is a currency, the Mexican peso. It's become a barometer of sorts for the fortunes of Donald Trump. When Mr. Trump is having a good day, usually the Mexican currency is not. Well, it was down today, albeit off earlier lows. So what a day in the country, but also in the financial markets. As I go back into you, Neil, we know the president-elect is a big fan of tweeting and has been throughout the campaign. You know, one of the stocks that really did particularly well today? Twitter. So there you go. I don't know what you make of that.
And I guess I found out that the president will have a handle. In fact, he has his own designated handle.
That's right.
POTUS.
POTUS, yeah.
And one more you can pick. But so I don't think he's going to break that habit. All right, Colin. You know, I almost didn't recognize with a map behind you, my friend. Colin McShane. All right, in the meantime, let's get a gauge of this. What does the middle of this 1,000-point swing really mean? Does this end the way it ended with the Wall Street reassessing things, calming down, the real reaction or the frantic stuff beforehand? Let's go to market watcher Scott Martin, Anthony Scaramucci, part of that Trump finance team, Democratic strategist Penny Lee. Anthony, to you first, and you're very tight with the Trump folks, obviously, and well-connected. Were they ever surprised by the initial Wall Street reaction they were getting at any time? It looked good for Trump. It looked bad for stocks. Did that surprise them?
I don't really think so, Neil. I think that they sort of thought that this would be a Brexit-like thing, similar to what happened in June with the Brexit result. And so, and I did mention this to you last night when I talked to Mr. Trump at around 11:40 last night. We really wanted to make sure that that speech was high and tight and very presidential. And I think what you saw in the markets today was literally the 3 weeks of the Brexit narrative where the markets went down over the week period of time, and then they raced back up once people realized that Armageddon wasn't upon us. And so I think we were able to compress all of that in 8 short hours, which I think is a pretty good sign for things.
You know, Scott Martin, one of the things I said, without taking sides in this political race, you would think that a lot of the sort of headline prescriptions that Donald Trump had as a candidate for the economy of lowering taxes, getting rid of regulations, simplifying the healthcare system. Again, on that last one, easier said than done. You just can't rip up Obamacare, but he's going to try. That 2 or 3 of those were right up their alley. So why the reaction and the volatile reaction at that?
That was the head-scratching thing to me all along this way, was these were pro-business policies. These were pro-free market policies, which is what I think this market wants. And going forward, if you're a business, you like what Trump is bringing to the table. Think about all the trillions of dollars that are sitting overseas from our S&P 500 companies that is over in some other tax bracket or tax denomination because it gets treated better. Think about that money that's going to come back here, create jobs, create reinvestment, create value in labor creation. I mean, you're talking about all kinds of things about businesses now that have been focused back in the U.S. because Trump comes in with a fresh look at things, and it's not D.C. anymore the way we used to know it.
Penny, you know, there's always sort of looking after the fact what Hillary Clinton or the Democrats in general did wrong. We see it all the time. So there might not be anything to this. But do you think the singular war on the rich, saying the rich have to pay their fair share, that registered, but in a negative way? A lot of people say nothing of the rich who might not have flipped over it. many of those who weren't rich thought, saying, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm not suspicious of all rich people. I think some of them are actually pretty decent folk." That, in other words, Hillary over Bernie Sanders it. What do you think?
Well, I guess the prognostic, we're all going to be armchair quarterbacks now, trying to look back through the data to figure out what happened, because what we were predicting last night didn't necessarily pan out. So we are going to take a look at it, look at the language, look at where the votes came from, look to see if there was that alienation of those that might have thought she leaned too far into that message of trying to tax the rich, because they have the aspiration to be wealthy in and of themselves. But there's going to be a lot of factors, I think, at the end of the day that we looked into it, whether it be tactics, whether it be her lack of a vision message that people could really rally and resonate towards, whether or not it was just that she was able to not to put the right coalition together. Her own base didn't turn out. So I think many different factors. One of those might be that thread that you just talked about as far as maybe attacking the rich. But, Bernie Sanders had that same message, and he got an overwhelming support from the base. So I think a lot of data yet to go.
I think in a general election, if you can't, you got to get beyond that base. But you could be right, Benny. It's way too soon to judge. But, Anthony, what I've got you here, already, a lot of countries and individuals, business guys are weighing Donald Trump and what he's proposed. Probably no more than Mexico right now. That country is coming out with a response to Donald Trump, the Deputy Interior Minister, saying it doesn't expect Mr. Trump's proposed mass deportation of undocumented Mexicans in the U.S. will begin soon or be quick. It's already ready. That is Mexico to lobby the U.S. Congress and use all legal means to block such efforts. And so it begins. What do you make of this?
Yeah, well, I think that all good plans, when they meet contact with the enemy, like generals say, they change. And Mike Tyson would tell you that everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face. And so Mr. Trump has a plan, but he's not.
We hadn't used the Mike Tyson example because he lost $1 billion fortune.
Well, my point is that Mr. Trump has a plan. But I do think he's a very practical person, Neil. He's got huge common sense, and he's got a team of people that are surrounded by common sense. And my guess is he's going to get along fantastically with the Mexican people and with the Mexican administration.
Do you think they're going to build the wall? Do you think they're keen on building the wall?
I take Mr. Trump at his word that he will build a wall in certain areas of that border.
They've already said they're not paying for it.
Well, let me tell you something. There's ways that they'll end up paying for it whether they like it or not. But the truth be told, we've got to make the trade imbalance a little bit fairer for the U.S. I think the Mexican administration knows that. We know that. And the American people want that. That's why they were resoundingly voting for him yesterday.
All right, Scott, real quickly, 100 days, first 100 days is crucial for a new administration. What do you want to see a Trump administration do in those first 100 days?
I want to see him tackle fiscal policy. We've had a very, very detrimental fiscal situation in this country for many, many years. You have to unlock business investment. You have to unlock consumer spending. I think Donald Trump can do that. That's why the market's reacting so well.
Guys, great job all. Thank you for your patience with breaking news in these Mexican developments.
Happy day, Neil.
Happy Trump Day.
Get some sleep, young man. Get some sleep. All right. In the meantime, we had Steve Scalise here. He's House Majority Whip. All sorts of talk about how establishment Republicans. I don't think Congressman would consider himself establishment or otherwise, but he is a big cheese in the party. Congressman, we've already seen Speaker Ryan reach out to Donald Trump. I guess he talked to him a couple of times since the election results last night. No less than the President of the United States has said that he looked forward to working with him when he meets with Donald Trump tomorrow at the White House. How do you think this is all going to go? First, within your party.
Well, you see a lot of excitement. I mean, clearly last night was a late night, but just an historic night. This coalition that Donald Trump put together and really this movement that he's built over the last year is something that I think not only Americans are excited for, but a lot of conservatives in Congress that have been fighting a president in Barack Obama who's been taking the country in the wrong direction. We finally have a partner we can work with to get the economy back on track.
In what way? Then I keep hurling back to a quick start. Donald Trump has intimated that he wants a quick start, maybe like an FDR type 100 days, get a lot of stuff done start. He's blessed by having the House and the Senate his party's way as well. So that's what Barack Obama had when he started for the first 2 years. What do you want to see done?
I think in the first 100 days, the most important thing is for us to focus like a laser on getting the economy back on track. And there are a lot of things that we've talked with Donald Trump about, and I talked to President-elect Trump this morning about some of those things. But look, just getting regulations under control, having a moratorium on radical regulations, and starting to unravel some of these things that have been done over the years from every federal agency, from NLRB to Department of Labor.
Would you marry that with tax reform? Would you marry that with Mr. Trump's plan to lower all tax rates, reduce from 7 or 8 now to 3?
Make our country competitive, rebuild the middle class, end this war on coal, this war on American energy that's killing jobs, shipping jobs overseas. Like you said, the tax rate that not only makes us uncompetitive as a nation, but forces companies that are doing really well overseas to keep their money there. Bring those trillions of dollars back. Let's create jobs in America with that money instead of having them help create jobs in foreign countries like Ireland and Brazil and wherever else. I mean, we've got the opportunity to get the economy moving again. That ought to be our top focus. But look, national security is a big issue. Donald Trump's laid out a real aggressive plan to go after ISIS, to stop this bad deal with Iran to get a nuclear weapon. And look, this is going to be his opportunity to lay this out.
Would you do all of that at once? I mean, how would you pick and choose here? Because you don't want to blitzkrieg everything, or maybe you don't.
Right. There's a lot that the country wants to see done. There's a lot that Donald Trump talked about doing. He's the president-elect. He's now starting to work through that transition plan, and I'm looking forward to seeing him lay out what that first 100 days would look like. But this is just being put together now. But there's a lot of excitement about it.
When you are the president, you were the titular head of your party. Is everyone copacetic with that? Your colleagues and in the House and the Senate, who are also Republicans, including those who were reluctant to support Mr. Trump, do they know that now, that he's the big cheese?
I hope so, and I think so. I mean, the members that we're talking to today from all around the country, Paul feels the same way. Paul, the Speaker talked to Donald Trump yesterday and today, and they're going to have a regular dialogue working together on the transition. I think the closer we can be working together on what that first 100 days would look like, the more successful we're all going to be. And this is all about getting the country back on track. Donald Trump said last night, this isn't about him. This is a movement to get this country moving again, to make America great again. It wasn't just a platitude. There were specifics behind it. And we're going to be able to carry that out with a Republican House and Senate, working with a President-elect Trump and Vice President Mike Pence, who was a member of the House, served with him. I served with him for 5 years. He's somebody who's going to have a great working relationship with us as well. And I think you're going to see a real smooth transition there.
All right. Historic times. Steve Scalise, thank you very much. Good seeing you again.
Thanks, Neil.
All right, we keep mentioning this, how you start off an administration, right? And the first impressions you make. And everyone seems to be giving Donald Trump high marks for how he's come out the gate since getting elected President of the United States. It's those first 100 days, once he starts, that are going to matter, too. The same applies to CEOs. Do any of you remember how Jack Welch started as a young man in his first 100 days running GE? Let me tell you, lightning. Jack's here.
This most awarded luxury cruise line is bringing its legendary experience to Europe's majestic waterways. Introducing Crystal River Cruises, an all-inclusive, truly exclusive travel experience that's in a class by itself. With state-of-the-art river yachts boasting impeccable design and elegant, spacious suites. Enjoy every luxury imaginable. Butler service for every suite, glorious spas, open spaces, exceptional dining, and so much more. Unique excursions into Europe's most iconic cities, historic landmarks, breathtaking landscapes, and local cultures, with voyages along the Danube, Rhine, and Main rivers, ranging from 7 to 16 days. Come explore Europe's enchanting waterways with Crystal River Cruises, the world's only luxury river cruise line.
You're a smart saver. You find ways to stretch your dollar. So why not compare your Medicare Part D plan with other options? Call or go online now and see how Aetna Medicare RX Saver could help you save. With a low monthly plan premium, access to over 60,000 pharmacies, plus $1 Tier 1 generic medications at preferred pharmacies including Walgreens and Walmart. Shop smart. Compare your Part D options today and find out if Aetna RX Saver is right for you.
Pain does not care about your plans. Arthritis doesn't care about your garden or your motorcycle ride. Pain doesn't care how young you feel. Right now. Don't let pain stop you from living your life. Use Australian Dream for arthritis. It's not greasy, there's no odor, and only Australian Dream has the money-back empty jar guarantee. So don't let arthritis slow you down. Get Australian Dream.
The movement swept the nation and Trump took the presidency. Now get powerful reaction from our experts about the historic vote on a must-see Hannity.
We've got so many ways to communicate now. Cell phone, texting, photos. I was taught the best way to communicate is face-to-face. Horizon said, yes, we get that.
When you book a one-on-one meeting with a Horizon Medicare specialist, they take the time to help you choose the right plan for you, starting with walking you through everything about our Medicare Advantage plans, from your options to the network and the benefits, like access to a wide range of doctors with no referrals, and affordable premiums, co-pays, and routine care. With a Horizon Medicare Advantage plan, you can say yes to quality care that makes things easier.
Horizon made it easier to say yes to a plan that I know makes sense for us.
Act today. Open enrollment ends December 7th. Call 888-534-6458 or visit us at horizonblue.com/MA1.
I have instructed my team to follow the example that President Bush's team set 8 years ago and work as hard as we can to make sure that this is a successful transition for the president-elect. Because we are now all rooting for his success and uniting and leading the country.
All right, well, you know, hope springs eternal. Everyone rooting for Donald Trump's success. I didn't quite remember that with the president regarding Donald Trump in comments sometimes just hours earlier. Take a look.
I think the Republican nominee is unfit to serve as president. I said so last week, and he keeps on proving it. A lot of the proposals that he's made display either ignorance of world affairs or a cavalier attitude. I'd advise Mr. Trump to stop whining and go try to make his case to get votes.
The guy who tweets, they should cancel Saturday Night Live. I don't like how Alex Baldwin's imitating me. Really? I mean, that's the thing that bothers you and you want to be president of the United States? Come on, man.
All right, let's see how that meeting goes. But I tell you, going back in history here, I don't remember President Bush, of course, was standing on the sidelines before Barack Obama came in. I'm not once saying, come on, man. Maybe he did. I just missed it. There was no available microphone. Jack Welch is here right now, the former CEO of General Electric, arguably one of the greatest CEOs this country has ever had. Jack, you know, that's going to be a little tense, that meeting, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I think Donald Trump and the president schmoozers enough that they'll work their way through it nicely.
Yeah, I think you're right about the schmoozing part. They're both very good at that. But, you know, people remember bad comments. I mean, when you were a young man, when you were taking over GE, you had a couple of rivals for the job. How did that go?
Well, you know, Neil, it was shocking because one of the rivals came in to me and handed me his resignation. He was a very capable guy. And I said, what the hell is this all about? And he said, well, I supported the other candidate. And I said, look, tear that up and stay here. You got to reach out. Yeah.
Okay.
Stayed and became vice chairman.
Sure.
And stayed 20 years.
Wow. The question here is, you know, the parties are very different. So it's not as if when a Democrat argues you want the president to succeed, only so much, right? I mean, I guess, what are they saying when they say stuff like that?
It's part of the charade, the dance.
I got you.
I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
I've been on television once today, and a fellow's telling me that...
well, you were on television prior to this?
My God, I apologize, Neil.
What were you on?
An old network that you knew.
Oh, my gosh. So that does it begin with a C?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
And no, but the point is I was on with a fellow who was making...
Did they give you the questions ahead of time?
No, that's end. You gotta have.
I understand. I'm joking. Go ahead.
No, but I think the point is everyone now wants Trump to change.
Yeah.
But Trump won. You remember during the ACA?
Yeah.
When Obama looked at Paul Ryan and said, "Who won? I won." Now, I think it.
Well, he was shoving that in their face, though.
Yeah, but I think it would be smart for Trump to reach out and get the best people. That's the game here now.
But he can run the table right now. I mean, he's got the House and the Senate. This is something that Barack Obama had when he first came to West, at least the first 2 years. They got a lot of stuff done. A lot of Republicans don't like what they got done. They got a lot of stuff done. How much do you think he can get done if you were advising, leaving aside the people he picks, or his cabinet and key agencies? We just had a congressman who just gave me a laundry list of things they want to do, like regulatory relief, tax cuts, beef up the military,
right?
All within the first 100 days. How would you fine-tune it? Because you had a blitzkrieg beginning at GE.
Yeah, no, I think, first of all, I think he's got to complete his promises. ACA. He's got to.
You're talking about the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
He wants to junk it.
He's got to junk it, and he's got to have an answer there. And I think Paul Ryan has the makings of an answer. Now, he and Paul Ryan was very conciliatory this morning.
Right.
And they might make good dance partners for a while.
How does that go, though, Jack? I mean, when you got the CEO job, up until, Donald Trump was elected last night, the highest-ranking Republican in the country was Paul Ryan. I guess the conventional kind of decorum on this subject is the president is the leader of not the country, but of his party. So technically, he's over Paul Ryan, and he will call the shots for the party. How do you think all that's going to go down?
I think if this morning is any indication, I think Paul Ryan wants to play ball because he's a policy wonk.
Yeah.
He's got 18 policies that he wants to get done. He needs the president.
And the president needs him.
And they need each other. Now, if they're smart, they'll do that. I think they will. Look at Donald Trump knows how